So we don't have, because it's a minor subdivision, these have to be preliminary. So we don't have the stuff we need. Like they're just lesser letters. So we can't recommend final approval unless we have the other. And I reached out to see if they wanted to just let them know, do you want to just not be on the agenda, you know? I don't know what happened with that, but
So should we table or should we
that's what I think. I think we should table
just
it.
table? Give them a month to get ready.
I mean, it sucks,
I
but
thought so. I'm glad you caught that.
I just don't see. And we don't have Brian. I did reach out to Jared to ask him. I was like, "Have you heard anything? Does anyone have any of this stuff?" He's like, "Nobody even sent it to me." Like Brian had everything from him. So, but either way, we don't have it. So
What about that letter from that lady we got this morning?
I printed it out, so I have
You
it.
want to read it
Yeah,
in the meeting?
and I think we should.
What did she print out too?
Is that yours or did I
Oh
dump that?
no, this lady sent in a comment, asked if you could read it.
I have. Yeah, I
Do you
have
want,
it.
Oh, I'm saying, do you want me to read it or do you want?
Oh,
to
it doesn't matter. I'm happy to read it. You know?
We'll let you read it.
It's up to you.
we're
Where
gonna
you decide
ask
what you
you.
want. Huh?
Are we able to vote on a chair replacement tonight? I thought it was supposed to be on our agenda.
I didn't.
Does it have to be on the agenda?
It might have to be, but we don't really have an attorney.
I know. I'm sorry.
I didn't know it was supposed to be on the agenda, so I'm sorry.
Well, no. Maybe there was a decision made that we weren't aware of. You know,
We just didn't know if you were told by someone else to take it off.
I don't know, you might have to wait until I think she was wanting to wait till somebody else was brought in, so that they can help make that decision.
Okay.
No, that's fine. We just want to know what's going on. So,
I do know she's got another name for next week. And then planning commission in July, we can appoint another chair.
so plan on that for July then. I think I'll stay by. So we got a pretty good chair option.
We're discussing that.
I'll keep this and then we can decide who wants to.
I think we should on the.
Do you have the microphone?
But I can come up here.
You're going to bounce from place to place and also up to the sheriff's place. That's your next job.
We're relying on you to keep them in order tonight.
I think it's important if you feel like this is a good idea when we do the well. These 4 pages that Upperwater gave me in mitigating factors for the concerns, I think we need each one of those things needs to be read so that
By them,
either them or by us. Somebody,
I think
so
that
that
they should
can
give
hear
their
it.
own responses.
Yeah, that's fine. But maybe ask them to come up and read them so that people are aware of everything that we're basing our decision on. Because they don't know what my decision is. I've tried to look at things as objectively as I can.
Yeah, I agree. I'm interested in their. I think that before it had a bathroom in it, and that's why they needed the sewer. And I think they're taking the bathroom out.
That's one of my questions because I went back and listened to the other meeting and they talked about material being sent to the sewer. So I'm like, is it just material from the bathroom or is it material from other things? Because I think that makes a difference. I think we need to figure that out. Because I wrote up the list. Your skin always looks so healthy. I need to know what you're doing. I just need more sun probably.
Also, this might be super nitpicky, but our meeting that we had for the Smiths thing, it says at the top on the minutes, a regularly scheduled meeting.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be?
I marked that and I also marked I know they corrected it here, but for the remainder of the time I never discussed that one with the questions. That's not what happened. It does say here questions are right, I guess, but I think that needs to be taken out of there.
Yeah, I read questions too. I'm not on there.
I know, well, that needs to be fixed too because they put Bryson questions.
I think he read one.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we need that.
I pulled my weight. Come on.
Yes. My handwriting is so bad. So we have flights scheduled for October, and I had to call. I can't remember yesterday where the same flights that I'd already booked for half of the cost. So I had written down my confirmation. I had two confirmation. It was because we booked some of them later. Anyway, the lady's like looking at it. She's like, okay, this is for Joe, blah, blah, blah. Joe? I'm like, no. Jaden is my son's name. And she's like looking at it, and I'm like, oh, wait, that's a Z.
Not a 2?
Not a 7. I have horrible handwriting, so yeah. I wanted to check on this too. Where it says this one's antennas. How tall? Do you know? Did you happen to look at that? I think.
Well, that's why it's a conditional use permit, I believe. I don't know if there's a limit to them. I mean, I have like a 35-foot one at my house.
So this one I think is going to be 70 feet, right? So when I talked to Jared, he's like, let me check on that and see how if we have a limit. Because even on our conditional use permits, like they still have, don't we still have kind of a maximum that we need to?
Yeah, but that's structure, not necessarily antenna.
I just didn't know if there is.
Antenna system.
So that's just the definitions. So that's like this isn't a residence. That's the other thing. Like there's no address on there. The address that's on there is their office. That's why I was like, why are we doing something in West Haven? Let's see, it's gonna be oh, you know where I go. Oops. Sorry. I don't think they are either, but I just want to make sure we're doing our due diligence about this. Except for it's not gonna tell us accessory, it's not really a structure, is it? Accessory
I don't think it's under
buildings.
structure. Because the thing is, like, a lot of the times those are built with, the superstructure is like this big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, they're not like nice or like even the cell phone towers.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I just want to make sure that we're not missing something if.
And in reality, like a 7 foot isn't that tall for a tower, for an antenna.
Did you ever get a chance to go into that website?
I didn't.
Accessory structure. I don't see that it says anything.
So there's that tower over, is it kind of near this area somewhere? If we step out, we could probably see it. Oh, that thing's
Like the South River Radio Tower here.
amazing.
Yeah, and it's, and I, so that's one thing, there's probably not anything that says that, but Jared specifically said, well, I want to make sure everyone else doesn't say anything about. So
You
I
know,
was
just
like,
thinking about that, my question too is, you know, what's around it, because with the cell phone tower thing, we had an issue, like, what's in the falls.
yeah,
So we need to know that too, to make sure that it's, so we'll need to have them show us exactly what they're planning for this.
and I don't know if we want to move some of these things like we've done before. I mean, those subdivisions, especially when we're probably going to do more, I don't know.
Because we're going to take a break for the night.
We don't have, yeah, that's my thought, because we don't have what we need. But if we moved these two items up
Okay,
ahead,
then go ahead.
that could probably be up ahead too, because I don't think this is going to be a long conversation.
So we're just going to move A to the end.
Well, or at least for
I'll let you.
Okay. I better remind myself. was gonna make a note for summer.
The fall
Oh, that's awesome. That's right.
fall reviews.
I don't even think when I make these videos. I do them as they come in. But do you want to move Perez and Bowers?
That's
We
what we
were
just
just
said.
talking about it.
We're gonna I'll make a motion that we move A to down here before E now. Okay. So,
I don't think about it until I...
that's okay.
I'm
It's
staring
not like
at
you
it,
don't
I'm
have
like,
a bazillion things going on. So, yeah. Where's Bryce? I was like, when you sent that thing, I'm not gonna be able to make it to the St. conference. I didn't read anything except for I'm not gonna be able to make it or something like that because I was trying to get stuff taken care of and I was like, we're gonna have to
Well, I was
cancel.
like, why is she laughing at it? And I read it and I was like, oh, that's from her.
Oh, I just thought you were trying to be funny because you hadn't
'Cause I didn't reply
responded.
to that
Yeah,
text.
because you never responded to it.
Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
Stuck in a little bit of traffic.
Thanks for coming.
So we were talking about we're gonna motion to move the well to right before the I, B, and F just because. And then did you see my email about those two subdivisions? If we don't have the step because where they have to be final, we don't have.
You only get one shot at it. So.
Yeah, and we don't have, we just have preliminary letters and they're just, we'll serve, some of them are just availability letters, or letters, they don't even say, oh yeah, we will service it. So I think we have to,
Make sure we got
Have that.
everything on there.
and I think we need to discuss adding a limit on the frequency that people can come in
I
and
think so
apply
too.
for conditional use permits. Because it's not, I mean, it's November, yeah, this came in last time, and I think at least a couple months.
I thought we had that in there for
It
some
is if
reason.
you
That was
want
for
to amend
changing
the
the
general plan.
I thought that was in there over too.
And maybe there is something in there, but I didn't see anything. But that doesn't mean it's not in there. There's a couple notes I have for different things once we get to them. Just need to write it on the right paper.
I'm just gonna go grab one of the papers. We should-
There's something else. I need to check the bathroom really quick before we start. I drink a ton of water today. So, I'll be right back.
I looked through this. I didn't see this earlier. Is this where we're putting that antenna? That's the pump house for Ross Ranch. And why does that say 504 feet? The tower's not going to be that tall. I thought it was a 70 foot tower.
It's like 70 something. I don't know if that's like doesn't make sense that radius of that city. So it's not very far.
That would be
I
pretty
don't know.
worthless.
Yeah. I don't know what that's for.
That's confusing to me.
Does that fall in the same category as a cell phone tower? Or?
Let's see. It's just like so slow to respond.
What do you guys think on this well?
Are there conditions you can put on it to make it more bearable? Like, do they have to drill all through the night? Does the tower have to be 25 feet tall? I mean, those are kind of things that I wonder about. And before, they told us that the water quality was identical with this one versus the Sinclair one, so it kind of issued out. So it'd be interesting to see what they say about that.
It seems like at the beginning of the meeting they said that the quality was the same. No, not the same. That one was a little bit more superior.
And
But then
I
later,
specifically asked them,
yeah,
and they said that it wasn't.
yeah, I had an each and so my understanding is when I asked them about this when I went to the open house, the infrastructure is closer to this one on 51. So it's less money, it's more convenient for them. But my understanding is that the cost to purchase the well and put it in, those are all paid by impact fees. Development is what's driving this. And my big thing here, bring it up, is when they came in 2020, they said it happened in 20 years.
Yeah, I remember that.
So then we asked them why is it so much faster? Well, all of the drill. West Haven is the fastest, one of the fastest growing cities in Utah. Hooper, we've tried to put the brakes and we're not real faster than we're ready. So we've got
West Haven.
so we've got 2 sites now, 2 on the right. Call for water, but I don't
there's no way.
I recommended last time when we denied it for them to look over the residents and the rights of sites. Because I think it's only fair. They have a ton of growth going on and they're not doing anything to stop it. Like what they're trying to do, not stop it, but control it. And so
But currently all of our water comes from road, so we don't have any.
right.
So
But we are going to, they want to develop both of these well sites. So I'm like, okay, let's have the one over on 5500. It's going to be 8 acres. I mean, there's nothing right up next to it other than the house that's sold at that property. This house almost right up against it. I'm just saying we're going to need 2 more wells. Why don't we make it? Let's shoulder it together. 1 year in one, 1 year there. It just seems unfair to me, especially since West Haven's driving this. Like, I don't think that there's a right anywhere there as fast as West Haven is, but I don't know, it'll be interesting to see some of the stuff. I feel like it's kind of their work versus the residents. Well, we talked to an engineer and they said that drilling and stuff would have caused those issues. Yeah. I talked to an appraiser today who lives out in this area and he said he has a friend that lives over there and it was insane. Like it was constant, the noise was constant. Parts of our houses that were, breaking or whatever. Like, and then like, well, how do we know? How do we know? Because those breaks might have already been there and they're being attributed to this. But
well, even at my old house, when they did the next subdivision next to me, and the excavators and tractors were just putting into the road,
yeah.
I mean, it felt like a level 1 earthquake in my house.
Yeah. Well, and me and Lily, my daughter, we were talking about how just when they were putting in that secondary water meter last year, I didn't even connect it, but there was this the whole day, like 2 days, because they were there longer. And both of us were like, the worst headache. And she's like, it's because of that heat outside, refill it, and it's 2 minutes. Did you already get a Karen pledge?
I'll do the pledge. You've got the prayers.
I said it last time.
I knew he was going to say that.
All right, everyone, it is 7 o'clock. We're going to keep this meeting going. I'd like to welcome you all out to our Planning Commission meeting. We're going to start off the meeting today with the opening ceremonies. The Pledge of Allegiance will be offered by myself, and then the reverence will be offered by Commissioner Curtis. Will everyone please rise? Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we are so very grateful for all of our many blessings. We're thankful for the opportunity that we have to meet together tonight and discuss the needs of our city. We ask that thou would please bless all those in attendance, that they can feel that their needs and their concerns are listened to, and that those of us that are making decisions tonight may do so in wisdom and in an effort to do what is best for our community. We thank thee for this country that we live in and for the freedoms and blessings that we enjoy. And we ask that thou would please bless us to use those freedoms and blessings to bless the lives of others. And please help us to always strive to be better each day than we were the day before. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
The next items on the agenda are consent items. We're going to go over the minutes for our last two meetings. The first one, minutes from the May 9th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those and do you see any changes need to be made?
I did not notice any changes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on that.
I'll motion that we approve the minutes for the Planning Commission meeting dated May 9th, 2024.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the minutes for the May 28th special meeting.
There were a couple changes. On the top of the second page, it says item B, for the remainder of the time, a member of the city staff will read questions that were submitted by the public to the commission. That did not happen. Underneath that, item I clarifies it, but I think that should be taken off since that did not happen. And then also, it mentions the questions were read by 3 of the commissioners, but it did not say Commissioner Greener. You did read some of the questions too, so just for accuracy, that needs to be put on there probably too. Other than that, I didn't notice anything.
What about the
Oh, yeah. And I don't know if we need to change at the beginning where it says the Hooper City Planning Commission held a regular meeting, where this was a special meeting.
All right, having those changes noted, can I entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the planning commission meeting minutes from May 28th, 2024 with the changes made to item B.
And the beginning of the, and just the heading, I guess.
And the beginning, and the heading.
I'll second that.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you. For the action items, we're going to entertain a motion to rearrange those just a little bit.
For the sake of time, for those other items that are on the agenda, I motion that we move item A down right before item E. So I think those will take shorter time.
Correct. I have a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll go ahead and do that. So we'll start with number B, conditional use permit request for Taylor West Weaver Water for an antenna located at parcel 15728-0027. Is there someone from West Weaver Water that can come up, or do you have a presentation?
Yeah, just a little brief one. Just let you guys know, it's an installation of an antenna to receive water meetings or water meter readings from services throughout the district in Hooper City. You can see this is the Rawson Ranch subdivision. That little blue square is where they're proposing it. That is also where the sewer pump station is. It is 80 feet long with poles similar to a power pole. It will be buried in the ground 15 feet, so top of the pole and the antenna will be 70 feet out of the ground. And there's just kind of their site plan explaining just their setbacks of that property there.
Good evening, Commissioners. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks. Can you give us your name and address for the record?
Ryan Rogers, District Manager, Taylor West Beaver Water, 2815 West, 3300 South. West Haven is our office address. So as presented, we are in the process of switching our meter system over to automated meter infrastructure reading. And it will benefit our district to use the area that Hooper City now has for a lift station and put a pole there. What the pole will do for us is help us to be able to mount an antenna on it to receive meter readings from the community. One of the advantages to doing this is it helps with water conservation. People can see real time what the water usage is through an app on their phone. They'll be able to get leak alerts if they're out of town, or if they just don't realize the toilet's leaking, they'll get an alert on their phone and it will tell them to take care of things. It will help us as a district for time and fuel and things to not go out into the community and drive around and read meters. So it's a good advantage for both us and for the residents in the northern Upper City area. I did bring some of my team members with me. With me here is Jeff and a couple others. I'll just let Jeff, where he's the professional on this, give further briefing on what our plan is.
Yeah, so my name is Jeff Fishel. I'm with Core and Main, and I'm the rep for the master meter, water meters that we're using out there. I wanted to talk a little bit about what the infrastructure stuff looked like on the pole. It's going to be a 4-foot antenna with approximately 1.5 inches in diameter, so it's nothing like a big satellite dish or any of those big ones. They'll have a 5/8 coaxial cable coming from the antenna down, and then a little shoebox-sized repeater, and that's it.
What decibel is the antenna?
It's on a 450 to 470 frequency.
You know what decibel it is? Like frequency decibel?
I don't. I can find out. Yeah.
Do you guys have any numbers of what the estimated savings it is to not have someone out, not paying an employee to go out and read meters and truck and stuff? Do you have annual saving estimate on that?
Typically, we usually figure that it's usually about $100 a truck rollout. So every time a truck is rolled to go do a reread or to go get a final read, a move in, a move out. So those can just depend on how many of those are in that subdivision or in those areas. So typically, you're saving thousands a month.
Do you have some questions?
So how close is the nearest residence?
Right underneath it, I believe.
The pump station's right underneath it. Right?
Well, around the pump station, the residents around the pump station.
Can you see it? Sorry.
That has a radius of like the 500 feet. Does that mean anything on that?
Oh, no. Our repeater goes up to about 2 miles with that repeater.
That's just like for scale. Is that kind of like that?
What the conditional use permit asked us was to provide information to those residents within a 500-foot radius that would be
For the
affected,
mail outs.
so that we could notify them. We sent pre-stamped letters to Hooper City, and they sent those out to the community. So there may be people here that have information
Do you know where out on the site it's gonna be? We're just worried about like fall radius of the pole. You know, so if we're talking 70 feet from it, are you able to put that anywhere on that location where that 70 feet stays on the property?
We can stay anywhere you guys would like us on that property.
What the plan is to work with your public works department and work with them to see where the best location they would think on that property would be.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open it up for public hearing. You guys can take a seat and we'll entertain any comments from the audience. Come up, give us your name and address, 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment on this. Any more discussion amongst ourselves?
The only issue that I see with it is making sure that it's, wherever it goes on the property, that fall zone does not interfere with any of those residences that are by that.
Right, this dirt. These are half-acre lots, right? So they got 70 foot of frontage, so the only thing with, 100 feet of frontage, so it could be a little difficult, because you have, 50, right in the middle, you have 50 feet side to side. So,
Does it have to be that tall? Or if you needed to make it a little bit shorter, just so there wasn't an issue if it fell?
If we need to come down a little bit shorter, we can.
Okay.
If we need to come down to 60, then we can put like a galvanized pole on top of it to get that extra height, so then you're not worried about the massive pole falling down.
Okay.
and I'm assuming you guys have insurance for that type of thing, like if there was a fall on that?
That would be, yes.
Thank you.
Alright, I'll entertain a motion if there's no other discussion.
I will motion that we approve the conditional use permit request for Taylor West Weaver Water for an antenna located at parcel number 15-728-0027 with the condition that they put that in a location on their property and at a height that we wouldn't have any issues with any of the residents surrounding that if the tower were to fall.
I'll second.
Do you have, sorry.
With that condition, are we looking for outbuildings as well, or just the structure of the homes?
I mean, I'd prefer to stay on the property of, that parcel.
I mean, the fall potential, if it was to fall on the tough shed, is that an issue, or is it just the?
No, just, yeah, we're looking for the residents. If it falls on the pump station, then that's kind of between you and the city, I guess. We don't want citizens being, coming to the city saying,
Yeah.
Do you mean a tough shed on a resident's property?
Residence property, correct.
well, we would prefer it if the fall zone stay within the property itself
Okay.
of that
If you
parcel.
can make that work, maybe work with Public Works and see if you can make that work and.
Okay, we'll do our best, the best we can on that. The pole, and every power pole that's out there is buried, to a depth that keeps it from falling. So if it's an 85-foot pole, it's gonna be 15 foot deep. If
Yeah.
it's a 45-foot pole, it's, 10 foot deep. So, the higher it gets, the higher the pole, the deeper the depth would be so that it won't fall.
That should be good. I mean, I know we've had some strong winds in here. I've seen some pretty heavy trees that have been ripped out, and so just do what you can to make it as safe as possible for those residents around there.
You're working with the public works, should be able to help you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I have that motion in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Okay, we're on to action item C, final review of the Perez subdivision located at 5998 South, 5100 West.
Do you have a presentation?
Yeah, if you want me to go over it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the Perez subdivision. This is this plat map here. I'm just gonna zoom in on the little parcel he's looking to cut out for that one buildable lot in the R1 zone. And then as well as, so this is in the back of the plat map, just the also, this non-approved fill of material from Hogan Construction does not impede the one lot subdivision. That's it.
What does that mean? At number 3?
So,
Because that fill was there before, is it removed? Or they're saying they're not worried about it being there anymore?
or to say what? Yeah, this is you, Chris.
My name is Efrain Perez, current address 3639 West, 4000 South in West Haven. I'm trying to build the loft house here so I can live with my parents, but what was the question on
The fill, has
The
it
filter.
been moved?
No, it hasn't. After the last meeting back in November, I talked to Blake and he was like, well, as long as it's agreed that Hogan doesn't go back for it, then it's okay, because it wasn't, I guess it wasn't out of code at the time, but then they brought it back up again, so I'm not sure. So I left it because after I talked to Blake, he's like, yeah, you can leave it there as long as Hogan doesn't go back for it. So I told Logan that they didn't have to go back for it, and because they were under the impression I was making money off of it and stuff, so I was like, so it stays and that I'm not, but I was like, then I had a lawyer look into it. He talked to the city attorney, and he was like, well, since it's not in your one lot and it's in the remaining parcel, that they were going to take that up with the remaining parcel owner, which is my dad. And the city attorney, Brandon Richards, told my attorney, he's like, well, since we talked it over, he's like, this should be allowed since it's not part of it, is what he was telling me. But he's not here, so I have to ask him about it. But that's the gist of it. He was like, we'll take it up with the remaining parcel owner with that part of it.
So my remembrance of that meeting was that we had conditioned that needed to be taken care of because there was a discussion about, winter and if you're going to be able to get the tools out there, whatever you needed in order to move that. Blake isn't here tonight, but he doesn't really have the authority to speak for the entire planning commission. And so, and my understanding is that Brandon was working with your attorney. Do you have anything in writing saying that this was resolved?
I have an email from my attorney. I tried to get a hold of him, my attorney today, but because I didn't get a phone call till like around 1 o'clock today from Morgan saying that Jared had talked to her and was like, hey, do you want to get pushed into the next month? This was like hours before the meeting, and I was like, oh, let me call my attorney and see if I can get some email. But I just have the email from my attorney that he sent me that he got from Brandon Richards, and said that he's like, as long as the one section isn't so I guess as long as the one section was part of it, he's like, it should let me see where it is.
last time we talked about having that, some of that dirt moved over 100 feet away from the slough, did any of that dirt get moved?
It was never near the 100-foot, like, we went out there and measured it. I mean, we can go out there again and measure it and see for yourselves. But
Well, I used Google Maps and I measured it and it was well within the 100 feet. And I mean, Google Maps has been super accurate for things I've used in the past.
Well, and the way I remember this is that because right now it's all one parcel, right? So the parcel right now is not in compliance with city code, and so in order to change that and subdivide it off, that's why we made the decision that that needed to be taken care of so that it was within compliance prior to this happening. Part of the issue is that because this is considered a minor subdivision, this is a recommendation for final approval. So if this was a recommendation for preliminary approval, it would be a little bit different, but this is our one chance before we send it up to the city council to make sure that we're sending up something that is in compliance in the way that we should be sending it up.
So on we looked at and this is after the meeting, and we talked to Blake, we looked at the zoning, he's like, you're in agricultural, he's like, so you can't have that stockpile there, because it wasn't, he just looked it up and he was showing me the zoning, and he said it was agricultural, and he said that stockpiling was allowed, but like you said, he's obviously can't speak for the rest of you guys, and he's not here, but that's what he showed me, and that's why I was like, okay, then I don't need to do anything with it. He's like, as long as Hogan doesn't go back and get it.
Do you know if you have final letters, like in the memo that we received, it says that you have a will serve letter for culinary water. You did get a final letter for the Hoover irrigation. A will serve letter for Rocky Mountain Power, a will serve letter from Dominion Energy. Again, where this is a recommendation for final approval, we need to have the final letters. Do you know if you have those? Those have been submitted?
I was just asked to get that, and they're like, oh yeah, this is sufficient when I turned it in, and then I had a general contractor turn them in for me, so I was like, maybe I'm not doing it right. He's like, yeah, I'll take care of it, and he submitted all of that stuff, and he said, yeah, that's all you need, and nobody ever came back and said anything different. I tried to get on the planning commission last month, and they're like, okay, the engineer, who's heard is not here working here anymore, he said, yeah, everything you're good to go. He's like, I just gotta check with Brandon Richards about the notices. He's like, but everything else is, he's like, you got all your paperwork submitted correctly, so you're good on that end. But then I wasn't put on because Brandon had said, hey, you need to send the notice again because it's been so long since your last meeting, so that's why I got pushed till June. But nobody ever said anything about it, me not having all my paperwork correct or anything like that, or said that I didn't have my final letters or nothing different.
Is that maybe what Jared said that to you today about?
No, Jared said that with Brian, there was no presentation because Brian had, I guess, left. And he's like, and then with Brandon not being there, do you want to get pushed into next month? But with Jared, I haven't seemed to got anything done with because he's always trying to push me into next month, so I haven't really gotten anywhere with him. So I was like, no, I don't know why he wants me to push me off till then, but he didn't say anything about any of that for the utility companies or anything.
So on the staff memo, which is what they provided this to your representative. It talks about the fill material and needs to be resolved prior to recording a subdivision plat. This item will not be a requirement for preliminary approval. But again, this is for recommendation for final approval. So my thoughts are that needs to be taken care of since that's what the condition was. And if you have different information from your attorney, it would be convenient for everybody if Brandon was here so that we could talk to him about that. I did send an email asking if anybody knew if that dirt had been taken care of, but I didn't get a response over the meeting.
No, I hadn't been moved. That's like I stated, yeah, they had said that I was
Brandon talks about the fill and, you know, we can't have it causing choke points on the slough and that kind of stuff. And like, so I have Google Maps pulled up, if you want to come look, I can show you. I mean, it looks to me like it's well within, less than 60 feet away from the slough.
And like I said, we had when the Darren Rasmussen he's with the state, in charge of the slough and stuff. We walked out there and he's like, from the center, 100 feet from the slough, and we get out measured before they dumped any of the dirt, but I just went off of what Darren Rasmussen had said. And then, like I said, yeah, I was told that they were like, yeah, we'll take that up, basically, with the remaining partial owner would be my dad. And, I mean, if anybody here wants free dirt, I mean, go grab some.
I'll take,
I'll deliver, I mean,
always people looking for some dirt. So what is he lacking on the will serve letters?
Well, we used to get a copy of all of the letters, but I didn't see those that came over. All it says on the memo is that a water availability letter has been provided from Hooper Water Improvement District. Application for service with fees must be submitted to the district prior to construction, so we don't have a final. It says a final will serve letter has been provided by Hooper Irrigation Company. And then the sewer, they're not hooking into the sewer, this will be septic. The proposed development is not within the city sewer area. A letter from the Weaver Morgan Health Department stating the requirements for on-site system has been provided. Weaver Fire District, a letter from the fire marshal was provided stating that a fire hydrant will need to be installed, and talks about the setbacks. And the fees need to be paid. They have a will serve letter from Rocky Mountain and a will serve letter from Dominion Energy. And then it talks about the slough and the 100-foot protection zone, and that it won't be required for preliminary approval. There's no preliminary because it's a minor. And that's also the same situation with the fill dirt. And my biggest concern is that, you know, we talked about this in our last meeting. The condition was made that the dirt needed to be taken care of as a condition, and that hasn't happened. And so unless there's something else that can be provided showing, and I still think it would need to come to us. You know, but the attorney said, well, they may approve that, but the thought was that the parcel prior to being subdivided is not in compliance, and so we need to bring that into compliance. Otherwise, we're going to have problems with other things like this in the city. If something's out of compliance, we need to make sure we're following the ordinances.
Then, like I said, the only ones I didn't move it because I was told it was zoned agricultural. They're like, well, you're in R1, but then we looked at the zoning, they're like, oh, it's agricultural, so you can have the stockpile. So that's why I didn't end up touching it. I was like, oh, I don't need to.
I'm not aware of any agricultural zoning in Hooper. Hooper is zoned all residential.
There's agricultural protection overlays, but that's something.
Yeah, that basically just means you can run a tractor late at night. You know, that kind of stuff. Like, it doesn't let you have stockpiles of dirt next to the slough that I'm aware of. Maybe we might need to just wait to talk to Brandon next time.
And maybe confer with Blake too, since he's not here and that's who he spoke with. But none of us have that information, and I feel like we have to go off of the information that we have and what was decided at the last meeting. And I hate to put you off. That's not, I promise, we don't want to see you back. Like, we want to get this moving for you, but I think it's important that we stick to what was decided upon.
Okay, the only other thing is every time I ask to get put on a planning commission, I just get, after that last one, I was trying to get put on right away so that I could discuss that part of it, with zoning, that I said that I could, but every time I asked to get put on, I would just get pushed off, and every month since then, I mean, how come if I asked to get put on the planning commission, shouldn't I just be allowed to get put on the planning commission, or?
Who did you ask to be put on the planning commission?
We talked to Brian. I would come into the office and ask to get put on, and then, oh no, we're gonna have a meeting with Jared and all these people and the state guy and all this, and then Jared was no show to those meetings, so then nothing got done, and then I asked to get put on again, and we're gonna go out there and have a meeting with the code enforcement lady and whatnot. And then after that happened, and I was still not put on the planning commission. So every month I asked to get put on, and it's one thing after another. Like the last month, I was like, you gotta send out the notices again. And I was like, okay, that's fine, I'll do it. But it just seems like ongoing, and so if I ended up having to get put on July 1, am I actually gonna get put on July 1? I mean, it's never. So that's.
Morgan, who decides what goes on the planning commission agenda? Is that Jared and Bryant, the mayor? Who decides that?
So it's a discussion between city staff. Overall, the mayor looks over the agenda and approves it to be posted, but I was never notified for you to be put on. That's why I guess you haven't been put on. So there's just been miscommunication between the office there. So I can make a note to get you put into July. That shouldn't be an issue if we have the information that we need. So.
Well, and I would just, any documentation that you have, send in, and hopefully that will get distributed to the planning commission so we have something more to go off of.
Yeah.
And that'll give us time to reach out to Brandon and also Blake so we can find out what discussion was had with you. And I apologize, I am sure this is not convenient for you either, or us. So.
Like she was saying with Jared, miscommunication, that's been since like day one with him, so he just keeps getting involved with other stuff that he doesn't relay. And I know I've been to a bunch of these meetings already, just listening in and see what's going on. And I know there was one with Fowers, one of the Fowers said, well, I brought this up to Jared, but Jared never relayed that message to you guys, so it's like, Jared seems, I don't know, Jared isn't relaying all the information either, so it's like, that's why I don't want to have to deal with him, because the stuff that I tell him doesn't ever get across to you guys, and then when I try to get, at least getting even out of the planning commission, I'd have to come to the office and talk to Brian, or I'd call, leave a message, or I know I talked to Morgan a couple of times trying to get, or who was the other person, Tiffany, I think? Teresa, yeah. She said, oh, yeah, we'll call you back, and that's the end of that. So it's like, I don't know, never-ending type of thing.
Well, I apologize. We don't know because Jared's not here, so I don't know exactly what happened, but we will follow up on this and make sure that things are progressing. If Morgan said she's going to put you on the next meeting, and we'll try to make sure and follow up to see that happens. And our email addresses are on the website. You're welcome to reach out to us too if there's questions or concerns that you have. And I apologize, but I think based on our last meeting, we have to stick to what was decided. And so my opinion is we shouldn't deny it, but I think we should table it until the July meeting, and then hopefully we can get everything ironed out before then. But I am certain that we did make the condition that dirt needed to be moved because it was on the property, and so that's what we're trying to stick with is our initial decision.
Yeah, I see that. I guess it's going around in circles here, but yeah, that's the only reason I didn't move it is because after I talked to Blake, he was like, yeah, it's agricultural, you can have a stockpile there, and that's why I was like, oh, then definitely.
I don't know if the issue is that it's there, I think it's just that it was like it's within 100 feet of the slough. I think that's the sticking issue on it.
We're talking to Darren, who was like the center line is where the 100 feet is, and that's what we were going off of.
Do you have anything from them and from the state in writing?
No, that's when we were walking. He came on site and walked it with me and Jared, but Jared doesn't recall any of this meeting. So this is back in January. I had a meeting with Darren, I think Iris, and I think the mayor was on it, and Jared was no show for that. It was a Zoom meeting, and it was scheduled weeks ahead and stuff. And then, mean, I was working out still to make it because it was a Zoom meeting, you couldn't do that. But if the dirt is, like you said, if it's that, I'll go move it right now. Like, if you guys want to, if you wanted to go out there and measure it up, that's not an issue. Right now, you can follow me there and I'll move it.
I think we need to verify first, you know, as far as you being told that because this is agricultural, it's okay for you to bring these things in, because, you know, our attorney was here during that meeting and back to said that this is not in code by having those materials brought in regardless of if it's by the SLU or not. Like, according to our ordinance, we're not supposed to be doing that, is my understanding. And so that's, I think we just need to get some clarification, because right now it's all hearsay. We don't have, the people here that you, or the people that you talk to, none of them are here. Jared's not here, Brandon's not here, Blake's not here. And so I think we probably need to just move forward and table it. That's my opinion.
Well, we can do public comment on it.
Okay, yeah. I guess we can do public comment first. Maybe there's more information there.
Okay. That being said, we'll go ahead and open this up for public comment. Same thing, name and address, 3 minutes.
My name is Drew Miskin, live at 5944 South, 5100 West. Morgan, could you go to the other slides where it shows the 3 things? Apologize, I have a cold. No, the
City staff memo?
yeah. So, am I mistaken to not assume that these are the concerns that need to be addressed in order to finalize it?
Yeah, that's those plus making sure all the bill served letters are here.
Gotcha, okay. I was just curious because, I mean, you don't have to know much about this to listen, and it sounds like there's a gigantic runaround. No one really knows what needs to be done, which can be pretty frustrating for everyone. I've heard you say as long as the dirt's 100 feet away, you're fine. I've heard you say, well, it needs to disappear. It seems like someone's getting a runaround, whether you're, you know, on purpose or not. You know, people aren't on the same page. So, I have a hard time hearing someone say, I measured it with Google. You know, how accurate is Google?
It's extremely accurate.
Is it? I work for the gas company. We use things to go in and set there. You can't just look on the map. There's shadows, there's distances. I look out my back window and I see this said SLU. So probably be a good idea to go out and measure in person and make sure it's not, because I know he's walked with a tape measure and said dirt is not 100 feet. There's more than 100 feet from the SLU. So I hear a lot of the backstory and hear some of these, and it kind of gets frustrating just being on the back and say, that seems kind of hard. So be looking from the outside in. It seems like you guys don't know what they need to do. And he's been working on this for how many months? So that might be a suggestion to figure out what actually has to be done, give it to him in writing so he can show back up. Because every time I hear both ends of the story, I sit here and listen. He showed up with, hey, here's your answers for the things you have. Then you circle back 4 times on other things you didn't talk about the time before. I get it, he wants to build a house, there's some dirt that you don't like, whether it needs to be moved or not near the SLU, then that's just what needs to happen. Thank you.
Seeing no other comments, we'll close the public comment section. Bring it back for further discussion or motion.
Still stand by what I said. I think we have to table it. We're going off of the information that was provided to us. We can't do more than that. And I mean, some growing pains going on right now that we're trying to work through. And based on what we motioned in the previous meeting, those things should have been taken care of, and they weren't. And so that's all we have to go off of right now. Hopefully if we table it, that will give us more time to
try and get with Brandon and ask Blake what was said in that comment, or in that conversation.
Do you have, I'm sorry, I asked you a second ago, but here, what was the will serve letter or whatever that's missing? Just so we know.
For Hooper, it's from Hooper Water Improvement. Also said there was a will serve for Rocky Mountain Power and Dominion Energy.
So he needs the water one still?
Yeah.
Is that what we're saying?
Water's good. We give them water availability letter instead of a will serve, because the will serve always expires before the city will grant them permission to build. So we give them water availability that is outstanding, saying that we'll give them water when they're ready to go.
Okay.
Once the city approves it, that's actually a buildable lot, and they come back and say, we're good to go to start the process, we'll give them a will serve once they get approved for water. But we just kept having to go through this will serve over and over and over again because they would come and for months, and so we went this route to try and stop them having to go through that process all the time. So just so you know, they have approval from the water to move forward.
When did that process change?
7, 8 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I changed it a few years ago. I don't even remember. And I gave him his, it's probably 18 months.
Yeah, I think it's
When I give him
August or
availability.
September or something like
Yeah, it's
that.
been a while.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we table the final review of the Crest subdivision located at 5998 South, 5100 West until the July meeting, I'm not sure what date it is, but whatever our planning commission meeting is in July. With the understanding that we will get with Brandon and try to get some more information, and Jared, so we can be ready for that meeting.
Have a motion?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll do some research for you and see what we can figure out for next time. Next one is final review of the Fowers Legacy subdivision located at 4815 South, 6700 West. Do we have a presentation?
Just a little one. So this is the plat map. You can see that he's just carving off 2 parcels to make lot 1 and 2 in the R1 zone. And then he's just got an agricultural parcel just running in between there. That's all I got.
Is someone here from representing? Can we give us your name and address?
I am Thane Fowers, 4815 South, 6700 West.
What can you tell us about your project?
My project consists of me and my brother farming about 100 acres. I have ran out of people who are willing to help me. My kids are saying, we would love to help you, but we're not going to try and go find one of these expensive houses. I said, I would like to give you a lot so you can stay here and help me farm. So that's lot 1. Lot 2 is just because it was convenient to throw that in there just in case I have another child. So another child that wants another building. We are the original homestead of Fowers from 1869. I'm the 5th generation farmer for that ground. So I just needed a lot for them to build and to stay in. Over is basically all it is. Nothing more than the 2 lots there.
You have the city staff memo on
I
that?
do. Okay, so a preliminary will serve letter was not provided from Hooper Irrigation Company, but Hooper Irrigation said they would provide water and a letter would come later. Note that the letter will be required for final approval.
There's no secondary water. We don't have secondary water on 6700 West. So they said no, because there's no secondary water. If they want to provide secondary water, yeah, we'll throw it in there, but there's no secondary water.
But you still have to my understanding is that water still needs to be turned in whether it's in there or not.
What do you mean turned in?
Well, you have to have water.
That come from the engineer, because secondary water is not in the area.
right?
It's like saying that we need to do something that's not available.
But it's, unless something has changed recently, that's a requirement of Hooper
And
Irrigation.
I actually thought we did do secondary or Hooper irrigation.
You're talking about turning into watershed.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You can't without having that turned in. And so whether, regardless of whether pressurized secondary is available in the
Well,
area.
we're not, this isn't to build, this is just to separate. I mean, we gotta go through a whole nother rigmarole of stuff to get a building permit, but as far as just separating the lots, that's not needed.
So,
This is what come from your engineer, who said that wasn't needed.
This came from the mayor, our public works director, and our engineer. And they noted that the letter would need to be in there for final approval. And where this is a minor subdivision, we don't do preliminary approvals on minor subdivisions. We only recommend final approval before it's sent up to the city council. So we have to go off of what the staff is telling us, and that is what our memo, and this went to you on
I didn't get it.
June 5th, 2024.
What's the address on it? I never got it.
Well, it just says to Thane Bowers. I don't think they put an email address on here.
According to your engineer, he said you are complete. I will put you on the list. That was supposed to have happened in May. We were never put on the list in May. Now we are in June. Why does it take a month for somebody to turn around and tell me, well, you need a letter that I didn't tell you you needed?
According to this, and I don't know, I can't look at your email, but this was emailed. And we have to go by what is required. So it's no different for you than it is for anybody
So
else that comes
you're
in.
really gonna push me back for something your engineer told me that I didn't need?
According to this, our engineer told you that you did need it.
Your engineer told me 99% of what's on that piece of paper does not matter. That's what your engineer said.
And I apologize that our engineer isn't here, and all I can go off of is the memo that came from our engineer, the mayor, and Public Works, and what they're asking for. It also talks about the land use separation fence, and,
Land use separation fence?
well, you own all of the property, right?
What?
You own all of the property.
Yes.
So that's not, we just need something saying, because you're
I'm going
subdividing.
to farm it until they decide to build. So it's staying in agriculture. It's not coming out.
Yeah, and it's just something that waives needing a fence there to separate, like you're saying, okay, because sometimes this happens and the person doesn't own all of the property. There's other agricultural property that's located adjacent to the property that's being subdivided, and there has to be a land use separation fence there. So you have to talk to the other owner of the property to get something signed. This is nothing, something like that can be taken care of as long as you just sign something prior to it going to the city council. I'm just bringing it to your attention because it's on here. Noted for final plat submittal.
Who emailed me?
It came from Hooper City staff.
Who?
It's typically the engineer or public works, but most likely Brian is the one that did the memos.
So, and it was CC to the mayor and the public works director and to the engineer.
And my email's on there.
It says to Thane Bowers. I don't have your
I
email
don't
because
have an email on there. That should have been sent in a letter or a phone call. If they had my phone number, why wasn't somebody called me? This is ridiculous. My father passed away in 21, March of 21. It took us a year and a half to separate the damn ground. Now we turn around and we're trying to just put it so my daughter can build. This has been 3 years in the making. Come on. Who's running this city? Now you're going to table me again. Go ahead. This is a joke. For what your engineer told me that I didn't need.
I just, again, we have to go off of what we have.
Okay.
writing,
That's fair.
and if it came from our engineer, this is what we have to go off of. You may have had a conversation, we weren't a party to that, and so I have no idea if something else was told to you, but I'm telling you that this is the same requirement that we have for everybody that wants to subdivide and build in.
And I agree, but when the engineer tells us you do not need secondary because there is no secondary on the street.
You don't need, you won't be able to get pressurized secondary right
No.
now, but you're still required to get a will serve letter, and that you have to turn in the water shares
And
in order to
I
subdivide.
think, pretty much, I think we got that letter from Hooper Irrigation. I think we did.
Well, so on one hand, you said that you were told you didn't need it,
We didn't.
but then you got the letter, so we don't have a copy of the letter. If you do have a copy of the letter, if you have it in your email and you can show it to us, and it wasn't forwarded or anything like that, then we can take that into consideration. But based on the memo that we were given for this meeting, that has not
So I
been taken
need a
care of.
letter
We can't
that
recommend final approval until it
states-
is.
Hooper Irrigation will serve that lot. That's what you're telling me.
They will say that there is water available.
But
You
there's
have to-
not water available. So if you're
If
telling
there's not
me,
water
if
available.
you're telling me that they're gonna put secondary in that lot, then I expect secondary to that lot. Deal?
I don't think that's what it is. I think it's when you turn in the
No,
water shares.
you guys can't go two ways.
You turn in the water shares because they're not gonna be.
There's not a water share that comes with that lot.
If there's not water available, then they're not gonna give you a letter, and it won't be eligible to have that lot subdivided. So
What do
that
you
it
mean
can
if
go
there's
back.
not water available?
You just said there's not water that goes with that lot.
There's not a secondary, there's not a share that goes with that.
In order to build in Hooper, you have to turn in a water share. That's why
Why?
water, because it's the
Why?
requirement.
We don't get secondary water.
I realize that.
So I have to give you a $30,000 share of water.
You don't give it
For
to us,
nothing.
you give it to the irrigation company. It doesn't come to the city.
Are you kidding me?
That's fair, yeah, that's fair.
Let's give you the water share.
How do we change that law?
It-
What do we gotta do to change that?
Everybody who lives in Hooper, your house has to have a water share turned in to build that house.
When I
And
built my house, I
we
never
did
had
not
a share.
we did not make the laws.
I know, but how, so, let's change it.
So I gotta give you $30,000 to not get anything.
I may or may not agree with you, but it doesn't matter if I do or not. We are bound by what the law is, and I know it's frustrating, but that we don't make the laws.
The law stated from your engineer that it was not on that road and it was not needed. That's what he told us. And I think we were turning the paper in. We might not have even gave him the paper. My son-in-law did all the legwork for it. But the fact that you're now bringing all this stuff up, you can't tell me what my email address was that they supposedly sent all this stuff to. Come on.
This information is put online public for the public to access.
Where?
No, listen, I'm just telling you, they're not gonna put a private individual's email address on it. I don't have that, but that doesn't mean the city staff does not have that. I can't, it just says that it went to you. That's all I can tell you. I don't have your personal email address on my paperwork, because then it would be distributed throughout the city and anybody else who wants to see it when they access that agenda packet. All I'm telling you is that nothing's being required of you that isn't required of everybody else that wants to subdivide and build in Hooper. And I know it's frustrating, and I realize that we're the ones that are taking the brunt of that, and I understand where you're coming from. It doesn't seem right, but we didn't make that law. We just are responsible for abiding by it. And that's what the law is. So
Where's the law stipulated that I have to give you $30,000 for a service that's not gonna be given back?
we can try and get that for you. I don't have everything here in front of me. I don't have a computer. But if you check with Hooper Irrigation, call and talk to Hooper Irrigation, and they can explain to you why they need that turned in.
I'll get a letter from Hooper Irrigation, easy. But, okay, let's move on.
Okay, I'll open it up for public comment. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close that section and we'll entertain the motion on this.
I'll motion that we table the final approval, or recommendation for final approval of the Bowers Legacy subdivision located at 4815 South, 6700 West, until our July Planning Commission meeting, so that the applicant has time to fill the requirements listed on the map.
So you were saying that there was two things that needed to be done?
The second one was the land separation document. So basically, you just need to submit a letter to the city that says, like, I own all the land, I'm not going to require a fence. So that's super easy.
And there's one additional, as far as if you want to petition the city for a deferral of frontage improvements, and that involves your curb and gutter, whether you're going to put that in or you're going to put an escrow for those improvements.
Sorry, we need this audience to be a little bit quieter so we can.
Is part of the curb and gutter would be part of the building permit, correct?
When you're going to subdivide, you either will need to put those improvements in, or if you're in an area where it doesn't necessarily make sense to put them in at that time, you can put those funds into escrow with the city. And so that's the other thing. There needs to be something decided, whatever you choose to do on that.
With the building permit though, right? I don't have to do it to get this approved.
You do need to have the letter, yes.
A letter.
A letter stating what you want to do, and then that can be approved by the city council. Because you have to petition if you want to put those funds into escrow rather than putting those improvements in at the time that you're doing the subdivision.
So do I get the money back if curb and gutter doesn't go into the?
I believe it's
the way
10
that it
years.
stands right now, I believe it's 10 years, but I know that they are looking at that ordinance. So I can't. The way that it is right now, my understanding is that if within 10 years, that does not go in, that money goes back to you.
So do I have to do curb and gutter for lot 1 and lot 2? I'm farming it, I'm not, I just put the lot 2 in there just in case. So now I have to pay an additional, I have to come up with $80,000 so that my daughter can build a house? Out of a $30,000, I have to come up with $100,000 so that my daughter can build a house? Are you kidding me?
You have to, anybody that builds a house out here, I built in a subdivision, that money was included in the cost of my home. There's a cost to build a home, and they do allow, I mean, they've tried rather than just requiring you to do it. I think the city has tried to find some sort of compromise, and that's why they allow you to put the funds into escrow rather than requiring that those things go in regardless. And like I mentioned, I believe the city is looking at some possible changes with that ordinance. So if you have an opinion on it, it would be a good idea to contact your representative, probably a member of the city council or the mayor. We don't decide those things. Planning commission doesn't make those decisions.
Okay, and I have that motion. Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're to agenda item A, conditional use permit. Request for Hooper Water Improvement District for a drinking water well and accessory building located at 4769 West, 5100 South. Is there a presentation for this?
Yeah, okay, so, this is, I guess the site plan here, just it's off 5100 West, or South, 4700 West, it's for a water well and accessory building and the water tank. Just pulling the code again, and allowed uses under the R1 zone, it's under conditional use permit, that's why they're here before us today. This is kind of their site plan of what they're, I guess, wanting to make the property look like, and I'll have Cole kind of talk about that as well, Corey Green. This is kind of their replication of what the building will look like. There's the heights. I don't know if you guys can see it, 20 feet is the tallest. And again, I'll have them go through their presentation on that, so that's all I've got.
All right, you guys want to come up and give us some info?
I'm Corey Green, 5482 South 6700 West. I chair the Board of Trustees for the Upper Water Improvement District. We are here to explain our desires to have a well as outlined in the presentation. As trustees of the Water Improvement District, we have a duty and obligation to provide for the water needs of not only the current residents of Upper, but future residents. If you'll go to the next slide. Between 2024, 2034, the State Water Division anticipates that we will have an additional 4,000 people, which is more than our current system can handle. So we are in the planning mode to accomplish supplying those needs. So 2026 is we hope to have another well online, and it will provide enough water, 1,500 gallons per minute, to meet the needs of the growth. This growth continues, so that's a 2-year process to get there. We also need, according to them, we will need 6 wells to meet the need for build-out, unless we have a well that produces more than anticipated, and then we might be able to save the cost of that 6th well. But anyway, the next process is a 5-year process to get to the next one to meet the needs in that time period. So anyway, let's move on to the next one. This is a little bit of a confusing slide, but I'll try to explain it. So when they determine where we can put a well, there are some limitations. These circles right here represent some areas that already have wells. One is ours, 2 of them are Roy Cities, and then there's an area that you can't draw from. That's considered a water cone. You can't draw from those, even though Roy City decided to cut. So anyway, our well number 2 is that right there along with the storage tank on 4,000 South by the railroad tracks. And then we have water storage tanks here and here. And then we have well number 1 is right there. We'll talk about it a little bit later. And then the proposed site that we're talking about is right here. Now you want to, and by the way, this area right here is kind of an area where the underground hydrology is very poor. So the closer we get to that, the worse the water quality is. So the farther east we stay, the better water quality and less cost to filter it and produce it. So anyway, those are limitations we have to deal with. Also, the red, the yellow, and blue lines. The yellow is 18-inch line, main trunk line, and it would go up to the storage wells, storage tanks up in by the railroad tracks in Lower Roy. So to have a well next to that 18-inch line is very important to us. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So a little bit of history. About 2018 or so, we started this process in a search for appropriate well site, which is quite difficult. We found this parcel came up for sale. It was determined that it was an appropriate well location. The underground hydrology looked good. And so we worked with Upper City to make sure that met the parameters of the city code and ordinances to put a well there. They agreed and actually put on the Upper City future land use map, this point as designated as a well So anyway, Hooper City bought the property, went in and cleaned it up, got rid of the buildings out there.
Sorry, you said Hooper City bought that?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah, that would have been nice, wouldn't it? Hooper Water Improvement District bought it. And then we went in and cleaned it up. We tore down this building right here, which was reported to be 40 foot by 90 foot by 33 foot tall. Pretty big building, pretty big eyesore to block the view that was there. All right, let's move on to the next one. So now you're looking at a couple of well sites. This one here is over in West Point, and what you're looking at right there is not just 1, but 2 million-gallon tanks in that view right there. This well site here is behind Kent's. It's kind of tucked away in the corner of a residential neighborhood, and as you can see, it's a very unobtrusive presentation of a well.
When did that well go in for you? Sorry.
What's that?
When did that well go in?
Which one?
By Kent.
Number one?
Number one?
The one by Kent.
Originally, I believe it was in the 80s, and then they re-drilled in about 2002, and built the building and did the improvements. There was just a well there, with just a pump, and then they built the building. That building that's there has been there for a little over 20 years.
Is there a tank on that site?
Yeah, that in the middle, you can. It's hard to see, but
That's right.
There's a holding tank right there.
That's a tank.
Sticks out of the
Did the
ground.
tank go in the 80s as well?
No, that was put in 2015, 16. So it's been there 5 or 6 years, 6, 8 years. And it sticks out of the ground about 8 feet for future reference.
Okay, let's go on. So there's an aerial view of how the site fits into the neighborhood. It's kind of tucked away in the back of several residences. And then that 18-inch water line goes up to the upper tanks right through this that we would connect to it right there. So it is an ideal opportunity to connect it. The next one is just looking west of what the place would look like. As you can see, it's very low profile. This is the building that would house the well and all the accompanying accessories. And it would be smaller than the original building that was on the property that was torn down. Then this would be the water storage tank. And if we look, I think the next one tells us, yeah, do the next one then. So it's only about, this exposed area of the tank is about 12 to 13 feet, or above grade it's about 20 feet. The buildings are actually about 25 feet tall. So it's still pretty low profile and fits the requirements of the residential neighborhood.
So 20 feet above grade for both tanks. You have 2 tanks, right?
Yeah.
Well, there'll be a secondary reclaim tank for the filtering.
And those will both be about 20 feet above grade.
All right, let's go on to the next. Here's where we're at. We're here for a conditional use permit. We applied in 2020, and there was some reasons that, some difficulties, and basically says, no, let's just wait until, because it would be expired by the time the conditions happened. So, and then we came back earlier in the year because of some poor presentation and not understanding well, first of all, Hooper Water Improvement District figured it was a slam dunk because it would already approved through the city. It already had been established and put on the future land use map, so the preparation wasn't real well for the conditional use permit. And then because of public clamor, that basically got denied. So anyway, we're here to reapply and give you a little more information and opportunity to get your questions answered. So we've done the test wells, and we've got the permits from the state. You have water rights when we have water rights for areas, we had to divert those to this property. So we got a point of diversion, is what the state calls it, so we have water for this well. So there's what it's costing to do this. Well, with the test wells, we're doing about $2 million to find out the quality of the water, the quantity of the water, and the feasibility of the underground hydrology. And then it will still cost about $4 million to develop it. All that money comes from impact fees from development. The ongoing cost would be the same as the regular water, because it comes from the water users. It would be just the same as it is, but it's going to cost some extra money, but there will be extra people paying for it. All right, let's do the next one. So, a conditional use permit, the Upper City Code says a conditional use shall be approved if reasonable conditions are proposed or can be imposed to mitigate the reasonable anticipated detrimental effect of the proposed use. So in the process we've been through, we found out some of the concerns that the community has. One is zoning. The first one, it's in an R zone, R1 zone, and it is, Morgan showed that it is an allowed or an acceptable use that zone allows. And the city has already made that possible. Construction is a concern. When we did the test wells, they had it was very, very wet. They had to bring in lots of road base and compact it, and that was noisy, and they had vibrators to compact it. So that was a problem during the test well phase. That is done. We won't have to do that part of it again. So that part of it is not a big issue, but there still will be drilling, which is not as noisy, and it won't be as lengthy either because when they're doing the test wells, they had to stop, take soil samples, and do the hydrology and all the way down. So this will be more realistically like a period of 8 days or so drilling, and let off, maybe another 8 days drilling, and then the drilling should be done all the time. They will have the sound curtains around, which apparently worked quite well. There was the neighbor to the well on 5500. He said when they was drilling the wells, he heard more noise from his house furnace than he did the wells outside his bedroom window. So anyway, another one is lighting. The lighting was an issue because it's on all night while they're drilling. They have agreed to rearrange their lights so they would be less intrusive and maybe inside the sound barrier so they wouldn't be shining in the neighborhood. Utilities, there was a misunderstanding that we would be impacting the sanitary sewer immensely. We're not. We're doing storm sewer. We've already got easements and applications in place. We're working with Taylor West Weber, Wilson Irrigation, and using their ditch during the wintertime for the production wastewater. And we've had it metered so that we know we're not going to have an impact on the city's infrastructure. So that should be an issue. Visual concerns, we've shown that it can be easily landscaped to make it pleasant and non-intrusive. Fence, we want to make sure it's secure. We had some vandalism that caused a major contamination of the water system before, and so we need to make sure our facilities are secure. We can do that with a 6-foot fence instead of an 8-foot fence, as that's a requirement. And then buildings just outside the well building, which is extremely noisy inside, but outside the building, we was having just a normal conversation without raised voices, except for when cars went by on 4000 South, we had to talk louder for that. So anyway, as you can see, there's we want to be good neighbors. We want to make sure that this is a good facility. We want to meet the needs of Hooper. Hooper Water Improvement District is not just Hooper. We serve also West Haven. We serve a lot of West Point, some unincorporated Davis County. So it's not just Hooper that Hooper's affecting by when we're providing our services. We have several people with us here that are a lot smarter than me. So if you have questions, we would be happy to address them.
So I have a request. With your submittal, you included this paperwork where you addressed the residents' concerns that were brought up in the last meeting. And so I thought, if the commission's okay with that, I thought it could be helpful if one of your representatives would read the concern. And I know it's a little bit, but those same concerns are probably going to be brought up tonight. And so I feel like it's important that everybody's kind of on the same page as what the planning commission is. This was sent to us, but I don't know, you guys okay with that, or what are your thoughts? I mean, there was some detailed information in there, but I feel like people need to be aware. Since those concerns were already brought up and they're most likely going to come up again tonight, maybe we can help address some of those prior to opening it up for public comment. Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I have the right.
I have them if you need them.
Yeah, maybe I'll just take yours and make sure that we're on the same page. If that's okay.
I'm gonna have to share with you.
You want me to stop after each one and discuss it, or you want to just read through all of them and then see if there's
If you feel like there's anything that needs to be discussed,
Let's
but
get through them.
yeah, let's just get through and then we can take public comment.
All right.
Oh, you know what? Sorry. I thought I had them to be all of them, but. Is that right? Did I maybe I didn't catch messages there? Maybe we don't want to.
I think there's 5 but this is actually just a summary of a lot of what we just, this is basically what we just
Okay,
talked about.
just the
The law
residents.
version, this
Yeah.
is just the concerns. Okay.
Cole Allen, Water Improvement District General Manager. Our address is 5555 West, 5500 South, and that's the office address. So, anticipated detrimental effect number 1. Sorry, I'm really loud. Resident stresses concern for the cracks in the walls of his home and for the beginning of construction. The method of construction for the test well is a method of drilling similar to drilling a screw through a piece of wood as opposed to hammering a nail. No banging was associated with the well construction. There was, prior to construction of the test well, placement and construction of granular surface, making a parking lot and a road base area for the large equipment. It was there to support the weight of the drilling equipment and materials. Construction of the granular surface may have produced vibrations during compaction of the granular materials, and is probably what the residents were referring to, or could be what the residents are referring to. A locally experienced geotechnical engineer, when asked about cracks in the residents' homes, said, "It is very unlikely that cracks are developed from the construction of the building pad. Typically, when people feel vibrations, they start looking and see what was there before, and they never saw because they never looked. It's possible, though, not likely, that cracking could have occurred if the compaction was taking place 10 feet away from the existing structure. The vibratory compaction previously took place 250 feet away from the resident's home. It is anticipated that any compaction efforts related to future construction on the site will be for footing preparations for a building and tanks and for a paved driving surface. These future efforts would not be any different than compaction efforts for construction of a residential structure and driveway." Anticipated detrimental effect number 2. Concern about the lighting and the noise. 2 distinct methods of construction would occur on the site: drilling and site improvements. Sound walls will be erected to mitigate sound during drilling. The walls are 16 feet tall, blankets of insulation wrapped in tarps for longevity, and secured to telephone poles around the site. All ground level lights and noises will be deflected up. Site improvement construction will be traditional methods that are common to residential construction: masons, roofers, concrete trucks, and pumpers. All future lighting at the site will be downthrown to minimize the impacts to neighboring properties. Once construction is complete, minimal light and noise will be generated from daily operations. And just to clarify, the first time we did these test wells, we had sound barriers on 2 sides, as we anticipated the other 2 sides to be pointed towards open fields, so we didn't think it would bother the residents. In retro, looking at it now, we probably should have done all 4 sides, and we will certainly do that going forward, so that it keeps all of that sound and all of that light inside, and there's not any pollution from sound or noise going out. So it should really, what little bit there was before should really be reduced now. Detrimental effect number 3. The resident is not happy with the 8-foot barbed wire fence. A barbed wire fence will be constructed around the perimeter to mitigate this concern. And as we said, it will be 6 feet tall.
So my note says a fence without barbed wire.
Yeah, it will be a chain link fence, and typically we put angled razor wire on the top to keep you from climbing the fence. We can do without that if that's necessary. Most people just cut the fence with their bolt cutters anyway, rather than climb it. So we'll work with that if that's required. But as discussed before, our number 1 priority is security of the facilities. We need to make sure that nobody gets into those and tampers with the water or the processes. So detrimental effect number 4. Residents asked what happens when the water tanks flood. The retention pond will attract mosquitoes. The water tank will be designed to only receive water from the well when pumping. When the tank reaches a full level, the well will stop pumping to prevent overflow. A retention pond is designed to hold water until it evaporates or infiltrates. The pond will be designed as a detention pond, not a retention pond. A detention pond slows the flow of water into the city drainage system, but does drain. The designed detention pond will not attract any more mosquitoes than a detention pond in any of the residential subdivisions in the city with properly drained detention ponds, which is what I believe is you typically do in the state over the detention ponds. All right. Anticipate detrimental effect number 5. Residents feel that they should build in an open field. Ask for planning commission to vote as if they lived there. There is no reasonably anticipated detrimental effect in this comment to mitigate, so it should not be considered improving a conditional use permit on the site. Anticipated detrimental effect number 6. Resident asked the engineer a geology question: how do you know what the process is to pick this site? The suitability of the site was determined through industry standard technical methods and constructed a test well to verify suitability. The initial study identified an optimal band of land running north and south through the district where a well would be recommended. East of the identified band and a new well would violate terms of settlement agreement with Roy City. West of the identified band and produced water would have a greater likelihood of being unacceptably saline. Based on the results of the study, the district started to look for available properties within the optimal band of land. The subject property became available and the district purchased it. However, there is no reasonably anticipated detrimental effect in this comment to mitigate, so it should not be considered in approving a conditional use permit on the site. Anticipated detrimental effect number 7. Do not take away the views for the residents. Proposed structures will conform with applicable portions of the Hooper City Code, which code is intended to reasonably mitigate the impacts of development on existing residents. Anticipated detrimental effect number 8. Residents are not happy with how the Perez subdivision was dealt with for having dirt piles on the property that no one can see, but the water department can sneak into a subdivision to build a water well. Feels that the 5500 West site makes more sense to him. Not fair for the 12 to 15 people to take burden for the water well. There is no reasonably anticipated detrimental effect in this comment to mitigate. See also response number 7. The district needs both well sites, and the proposed 5500 South site, or 5500 West, 5500 South, it's on the corner. We will need that site as well, and as you can see from our presentation, we'll probably move right into that design as soon as we get moving on this well, if we can. So I don't think that's a either or, it's we need both. And just so you know, we purchased the property on 5100 South first as it became available Standard South became available, we purchased that one as well, knowing we would need both. And an additional, probably 2 more wells after that. Sorry, number 9. Anticipated detrimental effect, number 9, mentions that the water department states that it will take 3 years to complete, does not want to have damaged property. The project, once approved, may take 3 years to complete. Approximately 2 months will be for construction of the well. Approximately 1 year will be for design and approval through city and state reviewers, during which no construction activity will take place. And approximately 18 months will be for construction of the well house, tanks, and associated infrastructure. The estimated 20 months of construction activities will be similar to construction of a residential subdivision. As far as impacts, construction, noise, traffic activities, personnel, lights, to the neighboring properties is concerned. So we just like building a normal subdivision. Proposed structures and construction activities will conform with applicable portions of the Hooper City Code, which code is intended to reasonably mitigate the impacts of the development on existing residents. Anticipated detrimental effect number 10. The resident stresses her concern for the decrease on the value of her other homes. Aside from complying with applicable portions of Hooper City Code, the district submits the proposed facilities will not have negative impacts on property values. There will always be a paid crew to take care of the yard, building, and fences, a set of structures with minimal traffic during daytime hours. Anticipated detrimental effect number 11. Marvin Zog, chairman of the Hooper Water Improvement District, stated that once it is in, there will be no noise. They will make it look nice in landscaping. This is not a breeding place for mosquitoes due to the pond drainage, not having standing water. That was a concern, and the responses go back to number 4 and number 10. I'm not going to bore you with reading this. Number 12, residents heard that the city can be sued if they don't accept our well. From the hearing minutes, response was given during the public hearing. Brandon Richards, the city attorney, states that Hooper is not getting guided by a lawsuit, and there is been no talk of that at all. Anticipated detrimental effect number 13. The resident complains on the wood posts and black tarp for noise control. The wood posts and black tarps refer to our industry standard sound curtains for light and sound control during a drill rig to mitigate the effects of construction noise and lights on nearby properties. The sound curtains were erected to a height of 16 feet and will be again for future well construction to deflect light and sound originating from near ground level. Number 14. The resident also agrees on getting compensated for the damage being done to their homes. From the hearing minutes, a response was given during the public hearing. Commissioner Simpson states that it is a civil dispute between them and the water district. And if anybody has anything that they want to bring to us, we welcome them to bring that to us. Number 15. A resident comments on Mr. Zog's comments, not happy with the building size of the tank and the pump house. From the hearing minutes, a response was given during the public hearing. Commissioner Greener, did I pronounce that? Greener, okay. Commissioner Greener asked the audience if there were a height you would like to see for the tank, and the audience commented none. Further responses, proposed structures will conform with applicable portions of the Hooper City Code, which code is intended to reasonably mitigate the impacts of development on existing residents. Specifically, tanks will be less than 20 feet tall and the well house will be less than 25 feet tall. Hooper City Code allows for structures up to 25 feet tall before a conditional use permit is required. As precedents, two applications for oversized structures were considered and approved in the same public hearing at which the district's 2023 conditional use permit application was considered. Issues raised at public hearing that were not captured in the minutes. Number 1, there is no sanitary sewer available for this property, and the proposed improvements rely on sewer. Therefore, the conditional use permit should be denied. The response is acknowledged that sewer works do not currently exist for the property. The proposed improvements will be designed to operate properly without the use of sanitary sewer. Provisions will be incorporated and designed to connect to a future sanitary sewer system if it is ever provided. Issue number 2, there is no storm drain system to take well construction water and or storm water from the site. And the response is acknowledged that there is a limited storm drainage system on the proposed site at 5100 South's frontage. There is, however, an established pipe drainage system along 4700 West. The district has coordinated, well, it says is coordinating with landowners to gain access to said drainage system, and that has been done. We have access through their property, and Wilson Irrigation will allow us to use their pipe. Hooper City's been provided with the amount of water that will go down that drain system and into the slough, and it is less than what the irrigation company sends down during irrigation season. So we don't see any issue with that.
Thank you, I know it's a lot to read.
Questions for them?
So the sewer, am I understanding correctly that the only thing that was going to be used for that when we met last time was the restroom, or are there other things that are going to need to be?
No, just the restroom, and it will be built with the building, but it won't be hooked up to anything if there's no sewer. It'll just be capped if the sewer comes into the bathroom, and just there for convenience for our staff and just for safety, just to have it here if needed. So it's not something that is necessary or will be used until sewer is available.
And so you said that you would design it so that you can hook into the sewer in the future if that ever becomes available. Where will you pipe that to?
So basically, it would come out of the building, under the ground, capped, and then whenever the sewer comes in on 5100 South or 4700 West, we would be able to run it there. We do have, as part of our easement, we can run that out. And the plan is to go to 4700 West out the back of our property and to the east to tie in 4700 West as part of that easement for the storm drain as well.
Question, when we talked last time, we asked about the difference in like water suitability between the two different well sites. You just told us today that you're looking to develop another well site down the road. One, what is the time frame of that? You kind of mentioned this shortly after this one.
2030 is when the state tells us we need to have that one. Okay, assuming this one, well 4, we're talking well 4, assuming well 4, 5100 South is on in 2026, the next one would need to be online by 2030.
And then if you could speak more to the differences in those, because last time when we asked, we were told there was basically no difference in the water quality from one.
And the quality and quantity.
Is that still, is that?
Yeah, I'll have Bill speak to that. He's our hydrogeologic expert, if you don't mind.
Sure, no problem. Hi, I'm Neil Burke with Ellery Water. I'm a hydrogeologist that managed drilling of the test wells. And so what we found with drilling the test wells was that the 5100 South location has better hydrogeologic conditions in the subsurface than the 5500 South well location. And also, and really came down to, there were gravels in the subsurface, and that's what groundwater transmits through. And so there was, sands and gravels in the 5100 South well, but at the 5500 South well, it was only sand and clay. And so more water transmits through the gravels than it does the sand. So what that means is for a production well, you can likely get a higher production out of the 5100 South well, and then also you can have, when the well would be more efficient. So your operational pumping costs would be less because there's more water moving through the aquifer, through those gravels versus the sand at the 5500 South well. And then, did you have a
I
question?
was just going to ask, so does that translate to a difference in end user cost, like what we would expect on our bills?
Yes, I would believe so. I mean, it depends on how the district handles that, but yeah, your electricity cost would be less at the 5100 South well.
Do you have any idea what that percentage cost is? of the electricity, I'm not asking you to like tell us what our bill's gonna be, but like percentage cost electricity usage?
I do not have like an electricity cost for you.
Is there a, like, code efficiency number in place for one or the other?
Yeah, like it flows 30% better, uses 30% less electricity, or, you know, something like that.
Yeah, I can provide. So based on the data that I collected at the exploration well sites, I did an analysis of when you pump the well, what the drawdown would be. So basically, if we pump the 5100 South well at 2,000 gallons a minute, and made some assumptions about the aquifer, the drawdown would be 117 feet after 24 hours of pumping, versus at the 5500 South well, the drawdown would be 175 feet. So you're looking at over 50 feet greater drawdown at the 5500 South. And so, whatever extra electricity costs to lift that water 50 feet, and it adds up over the life cycle of the well.
How about quality of water? Is that?
Yeah, so the water quality, so what we did is we did zone tests throughout the entire, most of the depth of the well. Basically, it was from the bottom of the wells, it was at 1,200 feet, all the way up to about 400-foot depth. And what we found at the 5100 South well is the water quality was good the entire length of the investigation depths. And the total dissolved solids concentration was below 400 milligrams per liter in the 5100 South well. And then at the 5500 South well, we found that below 1,100 feet, the water quality exceeded the total dissolved solids concentrations for drinking water standard. It was 1,100 milligrams per liter. And it was basically, a salty water. A production well at the 5500 South location would be completed at a shallower depth so that poor water quality is not encountered. But above that, the water quality was, again, similar to the 5100 South well.
Are there things you can do to mitigate the water quality? So you end up using the well on 5500. You said it was salty if you get to a certain point. Are there things that you can do to remedy that?
Yes, there could be water treatment that could be done.
Your packet talks about you're using chlorination from rock salt. So is that, maybe you don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I'm underground, so.
So maybe it's a question for someone else. So I guess my question is is that water being salty, is that kind of no different because you're adding salt to the water to perform the chlorination process anyway?
Yeah. So the salt under the ground, the salty water, we would cap the well before it got to that point, so we're not pulling that in. The rock salt that's used to create our chlorine is generated with electricity and heated up so that it breaks down, and as it breaks down, it turns into a very low concentration of chlorine. Your house chlorine is 5%, and we use 0.8%. So once that rock salt broke down, it's just chlorine left, and it's very low level. So it's not hazardous, it's not corrosive, it doesn't have any of the problems that normal chlorine does in the higher concentrations. So that's what we use, but there is no salt left at that point. It's heated up to the point that it turns.
I guess my question was, if the water's coming in as salty water, is that
heat up the water?
Yeah, are you already partway there? So you're heating up because I guess I'm just asking because I've got a pool that I put rock salt into it and it used the chlorination process from the salt dissolved in the water. That's not the same process you guys use?
It's the same thing, only bigger.
We're dosing at very, regulated rates, and we're dosing with that hypochlorite, that chlorine concentration at very controlled rates so that we can see that residual throughout the system.
So bringing in water that's already salty, it's not controlled, is that what you're saying?
You have to clean it to get it where you can use it. It's not controlled. You know what you're
drilling would go on. That was a few months, is that my?
We put in there 2 months, but we anticipate it to be shorter, but it kind of just depends on weather and ground conditions.
So I think when Corey was talking, he said something about, I think it was Corey, might have been you, I don't remember, 8 days drilling, then stop, and then 8 days drilling again.
That's what they did last time. Am I right? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, Leland just filled, we needed, Corey touched on drilling component of it, and then maybe you can talk on maybe just the pumping.
And is that a 24-hour drill going for 8 days?
And does it have to be?
Yes, it does have to be. Drilling a borehole, I mean, it's 1,200 feet deep, very risky. You can't start and stop. I mean, once you start, you need to keep going, especially given the subsurface hydrogeologic conditions. There's confined artesian aquifers, underlying the ground here. So to really maintain the stability of the borehole, it has to be done in a 24-hour manner. And then the drilling, it goes pretty quick. Actually, with the test holes, they drill to 1,200 feet in about 3 days. And then we did the zone test where we had to build little mini wells in the borehole and then pump them and do the water quality sampling. And then we did 6 of those in each well, and that actually took longer. That probably took about a week or so to complete that. So the drilling itself is actually very fast.
So, I'm sorry, these are all words that are over my head, but for the drilling, the one that's 24 hours, how many days, like are we talking about 8 days on, then a break, 8 days on for 2 months? Or what are we looking at as how long that would take? Does that make sense?
So what's your anticipation?
Yeah, so generally, what I see when we're doing a well like this, I mean, the drilling contractors, they operate on a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week schedule, and they have 2 crews, they just switch off. And so they would mobilize to the site. Once they started, they would work days originally just to kind of get the equipment set up, and then once everything's set up and they're starting to drill, that would go 24 hours, 7 days a week, and they would drill the borehole, and then they would construct the well, and then as soon as the well construction is completed, then they need to develop the well and clean out all the drilling fluid that's left in there, and then once that's done, then the rig would mobilize off the site, and there'd probably be some downtime, and then a test pump would be installed, and then we would do the test pumping and development with a pump, which generally occurs during the day, except when we do the constant rate test pump to sort of evaluate the yield of the well, and those are things that are required by the drinking water.
Do you know what the decibel level is for the drilling, the pumping, all of these different things, as well as when it's over and done and it's just running?
I don't have a decibel level number for you, but I can tell you within, we have sound walls around the whole site. It's quite low outside of the sound walls. But within the sound walls, I mean, it can be loud. But it is required, all the equipment's required to have mufflers and things like that to try to dampen the sound as much as possible. And also, prevent the light pollution, so lights are pointed downward and not upward, things like that.
Did you visit the well last when we did the test wells? Anybody able to go there and visit?
Actually, I've driven by, but I have not gone onto the property.
When I went there, it was a little bit louder than we were, at the visit last week. It was a little bit louder than that, outside of those sound walls. And I understand that there's only 2, so the other side was probably quite loud. But inside of those sound walls, it was about like when we were out outside. So traffic going by is probably about as loud as what was happening there. The generator that makes most of the noise was a little bit bigger than the one that we have. And so that was the noise, most of the noise you could hear.
The generator that's on site, how is there going to be a sound wall built around it long term? Is it just sitting out?
So are you talking the one that sits on the well site long term?
Long
back up. Yeah, it is on site, it is outside. They're built with, and then you could probably have.
Yeah, I mean, it's sound attenuated, you know, there's, you know, we have insulation and sound attenuation on those generators. And they exercise them weekly. Other than that, they're, you know, for about 5-10 minutes, I believe, if I'm correct on most of the sites. But so that they're, you know, I mean, they are exercised, obviously, in the event of a power outage they run. But they are sound attenuated.
And that's done during the day?
Yeah, we usually run them in the morning on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, like at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, when that's just normal noise. And you can hear them, but they're not loud. They're built for that purpose.
So when you mentioned this study that's projecting how much growth there's going to be, and you said 4,000 new connections between 2024 and 2023, how do they do that study? What are they using for those projections? And can you tell us where they're expecting those connections? Like in Hooper, in West Haven, in...
The aggregate of all of those areas. And, you know, some places are going to go faster than others, and sooner than others.
Maybe I filled that just for example. So, I mean, those numbers come from the district's impact fee master plan. And really what that entails is we project a growth rate, and we utilize the district's you know, boundary and whatever controlling zoning is planned there. So we utilize the future land use plan for, you know, Hooper, West Haven, and West Point, and to whatever other data we can. You know, we apply a growth rate based on historic growth rates and try to use judgment for those continuations. Like this came up a little bit when we met on site about, you know, the difficulty in that and saying, you know, we try not to take these 5-year snapshots. So we use the best of our ability growth rates. We use the best of our information that we can gather in terms of zoning, and really from there, there really is not an in-depth assessment of necessarily where that growth will occur. Frankly, as far as the districts is concerned, you know, they don't have any control over that, so we just have to continue to provide service to the land within the boundaries when that develops. And that estimate using growth rates, density projected, is simply how we anticipate growth rate over years, and that's where those numbers come from. And then we apply that against existing facilities, and then when we reach a threshold, we plan a new facility, and that's simply how that is projected.
How many, and maybe you explained this and I missed it, how many connections do you anticipate the well on 5500 is going to service, and the well on 5500 and the well on 5100?
That's a good question. I don't know. You know, I hate to try to do math on the spot on the podium. So we have the district has a system-specific standard of, and really it is, and that frankly has varied. I think 10 years ago the wells used to serve as measures and improvements in conservation and stuff changed. Frankly, that number will change. Now, will it change enough that it requires, you know, no more development of source? No, but that is a little bit of a tough question to answer what it might serve now. I do not have, you know, that data. That is something that we could provide against, okay, district system specific standard versus what 1,500 or 3,000 gallons might project. Another challenge with that is we are targeting a, you know, 2,500 gallons per minute source. If we can get more than that, great, right? That's the goal. You know, there's been times when wells have been developed and we'll get less than projected, and so there's a little bit of there could be some larger variability into what one source might serve versus another.
Well, speaking of projections and stuff, when it was brought to the Planning Commission a couple of years ago, we were told, hey, you know, we might not need to develop this for 20 years, is the number we were told. And then last year when it came, we were told, We need to get moving on this, within the next 5 years type of things. We're gonna get going on it. And now you're telling us you need 2 wells within the next 4 years. So it's,
Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak to, I guess, fully to what was portrayed previously. I do know what was portrayed tonight is what is currently in the district's master plan. And it's simply based off of, those projections I just described. Obviously, there is built-in intent to be conservative in that. The last thing we can really afford to do, and all the trustees and staff, obviously, we do not want to find ourselves in a measure where we cannot serve the district. And so there's also a redundancy need for sources in the district, alone for what the future growth, these additional wells provide redundancy, which is an immense benefit to the district.
We're also in a major growth spurt right now, and I don't think any of us in here are expecting that.
Well, that's kind of a follow-up comment or question to what Sheldon was saying, but, when we discussed this last meeting, the reason for the urgency and the speeding up of the timeline, and it's due to the growth, the development that's going on. And so my thoughts at that time, and I still have the same thought process. Hooper, I feel like, has worked really hard to try and slow our growth so that we're growing responsibly. And, it's been reported within the last probably month that West Haven is one of the fastest growing cities in the state of Utah. They have a lot of high density housing going in. There's a lot, and you guys service West Haven. And I know we don't have a working well in Hooper right now. And so I understand the need for having one here. But in the last meeting, I had suggested maybe looking over in West Haven and seeing if there is a place that maybe we have a well in Hooper, and maybe we have one in West Haven, so that load is shared by people that are actually using it. Have you guys looked into that since that meeting? You talked about a study that says where the best water quality is out here, and so you kind of were focusing on those things. I'm just curious if you've looked into anywhere on there.
I try to fill this question, at least from my perspective, if anyone has anything else. I think, again, given the time frame that it takes from concept to development, at least from my perspective, there was not a specific what city could this be in, more than what is a, we did significant studies of what areas could serve the district boundary with good water, and where is property available in that area. And that was simply the analysis that was done when these properties were acquired. Yes to the answer of would we be interested in property in West Haven or West Point for that matter if they fell within those bands. That is the case. I mean, and that would be something that the district would pursue another well in the future. But I guess to the question of, the district purchased these properties based on the best available areas of sources, available property, and then explore these facilities. I will note that once that was done, some measures were taken to amend, or at least revise the future land use map of Hooper City, so that we could begin this not with just a hope that this would be a possibility, that it was done with the intent that there was some coordination there, that when we went to invest this money in these test wells, that we could have some assurances is not the right word, but some coordination with the city to make sure that there's an ability for us to use that land.
So the study that you talked about that I think Corey, it's one of the slides kind of showed, there's a band where the water is better.
Sure.
Did I understand that correctly? Did that study take into consideration any land in West Haven or West Point, or was it just focusing on Hooper, or?
Yeah, I mean, it took into consideration the district's boundary. Yeah.
Were there any bands over in those areas that looked?
It is good, and there are areas there that will work.
absentee sites are next to some significantly sized, adequately sized, well, I should say, transmission lines that can help distribute this throughout the system. Again, I don't think any of that was done with the intent to locate it somewhere specifically or somewhere exclusively. It was simply just, as I mentioned, based on studies and availability.
And I think you had brought up this site over on 5500, that there were some improvements that needed to be done to the storm drain system in order for that to work. Are those improvements that Hooper Water is going to take care of, or is that something that you're asking the city to do?
Yeah, so one of the big, I guess, limitations to that site is the availability for us to discharge our development water. That's one of the major undertakings we've been trying to do, and Corey mentioned it, and Cole did as well, the monitoring of the Wilson irrigation line so that we can discharge that water. On 55, that frankly, we really at this point don't have a clear path forward on how to establish that. I will say, I believe it was Brian, I don't want to speak for sure, but there have been conversations within the last few months about the city developing a storm drain improvement project in that area that certainly would be developed so that the city's facilities could function adequately. The hope would be that whether or not the district would have to participate in some of that to increase capacity, we had hoped and we continue to hope that we could work with the city to understand if what they need is enough for what the district could utilize again for that 2-week period of time, or if there really is a need for participation at some level. My gut is that what they need will be sufficient for what the district needs. It's that initial development water that we have to discharge is the tough part.
So that's the concern, it's just during development, and then afterward, would there be a concern with that site?
No,
as far as the stormwater?
We're going to use all the water we developed after that. We're not discharging the storm.
I had a question about the drilling process. You said that it's like a screw, there's no pounding, but I drove past the 5500 site. I drove past this one, I didn't even know about it going in the test well, but the 5500 one, I swear I heard pounding on that every time I drove past it for days. I mean, am I remembering incorrectly, or is that like...
Our office is Kitty Coleman in Sinclair, and honestly, I never heard it outside from our office, even when I went outside of the office. When I went over there was no banging, but I'm not going to say there wasn't any because I wasn't there 24/7 monitoring traffic. I didn't hear anything myself. There is equipment being used, there is stuff going on that could cause banging, but then it's not a percussion style well being drilled. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting because that's, like I said, I didn't live there.
They do make bumping sound.
Like driving past in my car with the windows closed, radio going, I could hear.
I would, yeah, I would say that, but I'm not gonna say it's not. I would know.
Okay, for this being a public hearing, we're going to go ahead and open it up to the public for comment. Come up, give us your name, address. You got 3 minutes. We're going to have Morgan time you, so we're not here till midnight.
Really quick, can I grab your name?
Brian Christensen.
Brian Christensen?
Brian with Gardner Engineering.
Okay, thank you.
Stacy Jenkins, 5560 South, 6300 West in Upper. I'm just exhausted after all of this. And I've learned, take notes and get everybody to sign them because people say a lot of things. So anyway, to this. Considering the availability of possibly 8 acres on 5500, why are we opting to squeeze into this residential area, possibly exacerbating existing issues? The decision raises serious questions about the true intentions of guiding the decision-making process. It's important to also carefully consider who stands to benefit the most from the placement of this water tank. Is it genuinely in the interest of the best interest of the community? Also, why haven't we started on 5500 when the committee suggested it? You would be 6 months ahead of where you are now. I understand that we need water, but a lot of the water, West Haven will suck us dry in 5 minutes. Let's start at 5500 and see how that goes before we go into a residential area. We might get what we need for a couple of years out of the one on 5500. Thank you.
Good evening, Travis Bates, 5008 West, 4950 South. First is more of a comment. I feel the water company was a lot more prepared tonight. I feel last time they came in, there was a little bit of hubris that, two of us are going to walk in and, hey, we're going to build a well. So I do appreciate that they came prepared with an army of people to answer questions and actually give a presentation tonight, which is much better. I do have 3 very specific questions for them. First of all, where can the public view their master plan? They talked a lot about their growth and their master plan. I would like to look at that. Second question, they've already identified wells 4 and 5, which are the 2 we're discussing tonight. Where is well 6? And have they already looked at or purchased property for that? And this last question has to do with the water from 5500 South. They're saying the limitations there is development water. Can that water be captured in tanks or trucks and moved out? And we use that well site first. Thank you.
I'm okay with having those answered now before we proceed with public comment. Are you okay with that?
Either way, whatever you think is best.
Yeah, if you guys can answer those 3.
Sure. Well 6, we're continually looking for a place to do that.
Can you talk up there? Sorry about
here. Well 6, we have not purchased property. We're continually looking for that space that fits within that band and has the availability of a main transmission line. Those lines are very expensive to put in. If we have to run it a mile, it's millions of dollars to tie that in to be able to fill our system. So we have to be strategic in where we find those places. So yes, we're looking, but no, we don't have anywhere for well 6 yet. What's your other question?
Where can you review the master plan?
Your master plans, the master plan, we use the city's zoning and build up their zoning maps. And then we use the growth that Ryan had talked about with the 4,000 connections and how we project that growth. We use the various cities' master plans and put projections on that for our master plan. And then we have it at our office if you want to come see it. It's available.
Not on the website.
It's not on our website yet.
Could you get it posted on the website soon?
Sure. Yeah.
Just easier.
Yeah. It doesn't show any growth patterns or where any of that's happening. It's simply based on projects that are needed is what our master plan has. So just be aware you're not going to see lots being developed at any rate.
Travis, what was the
taking the water?
I didn't understand that question.
Third question, yeah, the water you guys were talking about, you need
discharge.
a sewer
Discharge water.
to exit. Why can't we tank it and truck it? Like they do like the road projects.
How much water are we talking about, Neil?
Yeah, so during development, you're looking at, well, really it's the test pumping, because you're going to be pumping that well at the highest rate you can. And so it'll probably be upwards of 3,000 plus gallons per minute for at least a 24-hour period. So that's a lot of water. And then during the development phase, it would probably be upwards of 500 gallons a minute for 10 days.
500 gallons, that we said?
We're talking multiple trucks per minute need to be filled. So it just isn't possible to.
It's 4.3 million gallons in 24 hours. If you're wondering.
Is that it?
Yeah, thank you. We proceed with public comment.
Morning, how are you guys doing?
Morning.
My name is Will Strauss, and we're 5223 South, 4700 West. We are new residents to Hubbard, and I'm a 23-year firefighter, active duty Air Force, looking at retirement next year. I look east and I see a good clear sky. I don't want to see lights. I don't want to see saturation in the sky. I want to be able to enjoy my peace. We come to Hupper because I want to enjoy the country way of life. We have horses, so there's animals on the east and west side of this property being proposed for the water tank. And I don't want to lose that feeling. I don't want to lose the country way of life that Hupper has going, that the wife and I and the daughter we fell in love with when we first moved here. So we don't want to lose that, and then the unobstructed view. We don't want the noise, we don't want the fence, we don't want those trees that are going to be 16 or facilities 20, 25 feet tall. I was checking the views going through there. As a firefighter, I am concerned about the chemicals. I'm concerned about chlorine. I've responded to multiple chlorine events. Yes, it sounds like on paper it's going to be minimal amounts, but I am concerned because if you look at the emergency response guide, if you look at response procedures, it is 300-foot cordon depending on the plume, depending on which way the winds are going to flow, which means it could be anywhere between 500 feet in direction or wherever the winds are going to be proposed on that day. Also, if you look at the heat is also going to play a factor into the response criteria for a chlorine leak on that one. So looking at that stuff, and also depending on how they propose to transport in the chlorine, it could be anywhere to a half a mile or more, depending on the winds and plume of the emergency. So I am concerned about that for my family, since we do live on the east of the property line, and I want to make sure that my horses and also the livestock for the other residents on the west side are taken care of, and there's going to be no issues in the future. And we are looking at a lot of construction vehicles degrading on and off the roads. Currently, there's a lot of vehicles on 4700 that is not abiding speed limits. What are we doing to keep us safe? What are we doing to keep our residents and families safe? Now you're adding a lot more vehicles, a lot more construction, a lot more debris on these roads. What are we going to do to help mitigate those issues? And then also I want to see the maintenance. What is it going to be to us as a homeowners for the additional maintenance costs for the future and whatnot? And lastly, in closing, I want to, as I'm learning this process, as I'm learning what's going on here in the city of Hupper, it sounds like this is insanity. It sounds like they're proposing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, but they're same results as being denied. So let's look for alternative solutions. Let's look for another plot. Let's look for another place and get it out of a residential area that we call home. Thank you.
Before we move on, I just wanted to give you a chance to address the fact that my understanding is there will not be chlorine gas or anything like that stored on site. It will be the rock salt, and then it goes into some sort of machine that...
100-gallon storage tank of T-chlor. It is created into chlorine, goes into a holding tank, and then that's pumped into the water.
In here.
Sorry, Cole.
No, you're good. I'm sorry.
Yes, the transportation for the salt, for the chlorine will be salt bags, the same ones you use for your water softener. They're stored on site. The T-chlor or the hypochlorite is very low dose. As I said, it's less than it's 0.8%, and your chlorine in your house that you use to wash your clothes is 5%. So it's not very strong, and it's a very small container that we have the rock salt. It's added to water, it's heated up, it's put into a holding tank from 100 to maybe 250 gallons, depending on the size that we need, and that's kept inside a double-walled tank, and then it is vented outside, and we have horses that live next to, one we saw earlier, that's the small tank, the short tank. We rent our pasture next door. They have horses, cows, goats, much closer than our neighbors will be at this one, and we've had no issues ever.
Okay. And you also talked about, I know you didn't read this, but how many vehicles, as far as the traffic, how many vehicles will be coming into this site per day?
When it's being built, just like if their neighbors built a house, it'd be about the same. Once it's done, one, maybe 2 or 3 occasionally for maintenance, but one day to check on the site, one vehicle per day to check on the site.
They won't be parking out of the road.
No. We'd have our own driveway. They'd park in our own facility and leave through our driveway.
You choose to not
not chlorine liquid, not chlorine gas that we have on site. It is just a very low dose, very low concentration of hypochlorite, which is not chlorine, not chlorine gas or liquids. It's, like he was talking about, it's not a hazard that way.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I got bad luck. The main problem is.
Can you give us your name and address?
Oh, yes, Karen Peterson, 4651 West, 5100 South. The whole problem started that they picked this lot right in the middle of homes. That is the problem. They should never have picked this to start with, and they know it. But they're going to press ahead with it. And I just wanted to say, as far as this sound curtain, that sound curtain does not work. I don't care what you put up there. It's loud, it's long, it's hard, no matter what you say about it. So it might mitigate the light and the sound, but I've heard the drilling before, and even drilling is loud and long. And even with the curtain, you can still hear it. Last time was a nightmare that it was there. I could hear it clear down the street at my house. I don't care if you stand outside the curtain. I was down the road and I heard pound, pound, pound. And I know drilling's loud. It might not be pounding, but it's loud. I've heard drilling before. And it's just not good. And for 2 months, this is going to go on daily, this drilling, 2 months. Right next to our homes. We'll have to hear it. We can only hope it doesn't cause any damage to our homes this time around. Because last time we forgot to take pictures of everything so we could show you where the cracks were. That don't work. It don't work. And we can't do anything about it, which is fine. Then the pump trucks are going to start coming, pumping loud for 4 days. Then they start the construction. For 3 years, this will go on next to our homes, right up there by that pavilion. That's how close the homes are. They are next door. And they should never put it there to start with. And all this is right next to the homes with families. It's not away from the homes, but right next to them. It's not out in the field away or anything. No amount of landscaping is going to cover this up. 2 tanks, 20 foot tall, 100 feet wide, plus the outbuildings. No landscaping is going to cover that, and you know that. We should build down by the Sinclair. I know what you said about that. In the open field with the drainage and sewer already in place, you can fix it down there. Not right next to our family homes. They say there is not a detrimental effect right next to the homes. And I don't even know how you can say that. You wouldn't want it next to your home, I'm sure. None of you. Anyway, this is an industrial area. We don't have pumps, we don't have pump houses, we don't have big water tanks in a zoned area that's for families. It's detrimental to place it in this area at the expense of the families in the neighborhood. It is not construction of a home in an area zoned for families. It is construction that looks and sounds like an industrial area. It will devaluate our homes. I know you said in your little thing, well, it ain't going to do that. Well, guess what? The truth is it will. People are not going to want to buy a home next to those buildings. Saying it and being factual are 2 different things. Hooper Water always says they can do anything they want. I've heard that. So you guys can just do whatever you want. And that's fun and dandy if you believe that, but I don't think that's right. It's not right that you do this to our citizens and families of Hooper. These detrimental effects cannot be mitigated. And then one last thing, you said you're going to haul away in trucks the waste that would go into the sewer until the sewer is installed. Is that correct? That's what I read on the paper. The paper that you just read in the agenda packet. It says something about hauling away the waste. That you're going to haul away the waste. You normally put it into the sewer, but you're going to haul it away until the sewer is completed. Is that right? Yeah.
So through the filtration process, when we're producing water, there is nutrients taken out of the water to make it smell and tastes like a well, or like we all know what well water tastes like. The filtration process takes that out, and that has to be disposed of. Right now, at our well that we have that has this filtration plant, we do that twice a year. And it's about, I don't know, it's not very much. We could put it in barrels and haul it off. We're talking a few 50-gallon drums probably, periodically.
So it's not something toxic or something?
No, not at all. It's iron and manganese.
Well, I heard waste.
It's iron and manganese, so it's just metals that would go to normal, like the garbage dump. So, yeah. It is a way to mitigate it if that's the way we have to do it.
Thank you for your response.
I'm Katie Parkinson. I'm at 4839 West, 5100 South. I think 3 lots down from this, maybe 4. I was here at the last meeting and I still got it. And I had to listen to that for 2 months and I didn't sleep. I shouldn't be here now because I've had surgery and it hurts, but this is important. First of all, it's in a residential area. It's already zoned for that. Why are we letting them bully us into something that we already had planned and it was working well? We all got big lots there and we all enjoy them thoroughly. And this doesn't help. This isn't normal construction either. If it was a construction site, they shut down at night and you can sleep. This is no construction site like that. This goes, and I asked him at the time where this well was going to furnish it. Back then it was to furnish. It wasn't even going to be for Hooper. This is just for West Haven. If they really answer honestly, where is this water going? They make you believe that it's going to be for Hooper. I know I pinned them down on it before and they told me it was for West Haven. It wouldn't even furnish it for us. So that's kind of just not very honest to me. And two, we've been here and when they first bought the place and they asked for it, January 20th of 2020, we were here and we let them know our feelings about we really wouldn't like it there. But they went ahead and they spent all this money and they've done all this. Now they're using that for the excuse for you. Now you need to let us because we spent all this money. We told them back then, that was January 20th, and it got tabled. We come back February 13th of 2020, the motion got denied. They come back again November 9th after they'd done a lot of stuff that was horrible. And tried it again, and it was denied. Now they're pulling their way back in here. What are we going to do? Do I have to become an engineer and know all about this? I worry about our water table. They say it's not going to affect it, but I've looked at studies that say otherwise. I wish you guys would do a study of your own or something, because we have pastures that are nice and green even when we don't water. I think that will go away. But there will be nothing we can do about it, because it's going to be just like the cracks in the wall. I feel quite slighted. That's pretty rude to say, well, we just didn't notice them, or we're just liars, I guess. No, it was very traumatic to have that go. That's why it shouldn't be in a residential area. And that's why we've told them 3 times now. So please tell them again and stick with your plans. And I hope this commission will stick with plans on other things. You've got a zoning plan. Stick to it. Don't let them go with smaller lots anywhere. Don't let them do that to us. This is our plan. That's what we did it for. Don't let it go off of that. It worked out well until they come along, so don't let the bullies come in and tell us how to run our city. Thanks.
Katie, can you play that recording for us?
Yes, if you have it recorded, you put it.
I do have it. I know you heard it once. Don't know that you'll enjoy it.
Yeah,
week, and I'll be
exactly.
finding it, will you
Yeah.
let me come back at night?
That'd be great, thank you.
And this was with your barriers, and there are 4 houses, I bet 400 or 500 feet away from this. And it didn't, the barriers don't work, and it's very loud, and it's very bright. Even though we have our big yard, that was bright. I have a picture of that too. They're saying how high that 16 foot is. That drill went way, way higher than that. And it's miserable. I will look for it while somebody else talks, and if you let me get back up, I'll play it.
Thank you.
Ken Parkinson. I live at 4839 West, 5100 South. I wanted to talk about the water that's going into Wilson Irrigation. Now, people are going to be irrigating from that water also. I don't know what that'll do.
We'll do it.
There's only one station of irrigation past where they're gonna tie in. One field gets irrigated and it goes to wastewater. I live on that property.
Okay.
This will be done outside of irrigation season, between October and April.
Okay.
So for that purpose.
Okay, now they were showing the pictures, 1 story high for all the buildings. But they're saying 25 feet. That's 3 stories high. And what I wanted to do was show you a picture. Can I show you a picture? This is where we were. This is from our house on our. This is what we see. If that's 15 inches or 15 feet high, 25 feet is going to make it a lot higher, and that's what it looks like on my house, on my deck, which is on the second floor.
So this is a picture from your second story deck.
Yeah, my second story deck.
How tall do you think your house is?
It's just a two story. And that's going to be 3 story. So, and that's 16 feet, that sound barrier, and so that's going to be even taller than that.
Show your picture.
See, that almost covered the mountain. If it's how long that pump house is going to be, and 25 feet tall. So that's three stories tall. That's going to be higher than anything around by it. You see our ground goes back that far also. And that's all I wanted to do.
Thank you. One quick thing, sir. I'm looking back at this site plan, and it has the pump house at 19.32 feet. Is that correct?
My name is Kathy Taylor, and I live at 4745 West, 5100 South, right next door to where this great big 100-foot by 25-foot water tank will be built in my backyard. Can you pull up a slide for me? So this is the well backyard where I come out at night and sit and watch for the deer to come and hopefully hear a pheasant out back. They're going to put it right there in my backyard. I can throw a rock and hit it. There's no way a well should be amongst all these homes. I am a lifelong resident. Is this on?
Yeah.
I'm a lifelong resident of Hooper. I have always loved my home here in Hooper, and I thought that I would live here forever. But now I can't think of one good thing about Hooper, and I am ready to leave this town for someplace better. Someplace that I will not have a giant water tank within 10 feet of my backyard. I don't understand what Bruce and I have done to these people on the Hooper Water District Board, that they are going to come in right next to my home and put a great big water tank in. I don't understand it. Companies such as Hooper Water District should not buy property in a subdivision where people have lived for many years and plan to build a massive water tank facility that people can see from miles away. And by building that huge water tank, they are disrupting all the lives of the people that live in that area. And I'm going to talk as long as I want. In their presentation, to answer our question about cracks, on this page right here, page 3 of 5, it's the very first question in their presentation about cracks that we have in our home, on our walls and ceilings. They are basically calling us liars about the cracks happening when they were drilling. They say that the drilling is no more than a drill going into a piece of wood. How can that possibly be? That's bull. That is bull. You can read the full response in their own words. It is number 1 on page 3 of 5. It says that the method of construction for the test well was a method of drilling similar to drilling a screw through a piece of wood. No banging was associated with the well construction. Who in here heard any banging during that time? There you go. There you go. You got it. No banging was associated with the well construction. And that answer alone is bullcrap. Every one of us that live on this block of 4700 West and 5100 South know how massive the drill was, and we all experienced noise and vibrations and dust from the drilling. In their own words, they said a locally experienced engineer, when asked about the cracks in the residents' homes, he said it is very unlikely people felt these vibrations. If they start looking and see what was there before, they never saw it because they never looked. In other words, Hooper Water is calling us all liars. I am thoroughly disgusted with Hooper Water District and all the so-called friendly residents that smile and shake your hand in church, but are willing to ruin everything good about Hooper. If this huge water tank and facility are allowed to move forward, I believe that the mayor and the planning commission will be doing a big disservice to all the residents of East Hooper. I ask you to please deny this water company from destroying our neighborhood and vote for it to be constructed down by the Sinclair gas station in an open field where it belongs. Thank you.
My name's
name's Kelly Christensen. I live at 5237 South, 4700 West. And actually, my house is right here. So there are a handful of houses closer to me, but the sound walls were not up on the north side or the south side. That was my side. I didn't hear any banging. I didn't hear any pounding. I have no damage in my house. I have nothing. I'm actually working with them to give them the easement through our yard to run their drain line into the ditch that's down there, and eventually run their sewer line to possibly tie into the sewer if the pump station ever gets built. But I'm for it. I'm good with it. I'm one of these guys who, I don't go to church anymore, but shake their hands, but I don't lie to people.
I'm Bruce Taylor. I live at 4745 West, 5100 South. Kathy and I have lived there for 51 years. In 2019, Hooper Water Improvement District bought an existing home next to me. We share the exact same fence. They wanted nothing to do with this house. All they wanted is the right to get to the back, second and third acre with a right-of-way, leaving a rental home for the last 6 years next to me. Directly behind 12 homes and this whole neighborhood, as you can see. Rightfully so, this committee over the last 5 years has denied this twice, and this is the third time we've had to do this. In 2020, Corey Green was our mayor when this was denied. And now he is the head of the water board. It was 2 months before Del Fowers took over. And here they are back again for the third time. They have a Sinclair site with 8 acres to make things as big as they want to down on 5500 South by the Sinclair station. When this water board bought this place, they did not consider how this would affect all of the neighbors in our neighborhood. They drove in here thinking that this would not bother any of these people, but if any of them lived anywhere near here, which none of them do, they would have never bought this place. Buying a home that they didn't want anything to do with just to get to the back 2 acres, but making sure they kept a right-of-way. All of these homes have 1 acre, all 12 of these homes are within 1 acre of this property. I will be able to stand in my backyard just like Kathy and throw a rock and hit this water tank. Last November 2023, they said in their plan that they would be connecting into an existing sewer system. That was November when this committee denied it for the second time. I brought to their attention, the Hooper Water Board and the committee, that there was no sewer to hook into it. In their own words, they were going to hook their sewer into the existing sewer system. In November, I brought it to everyone's attention, there is no sewer. Everyone seemed appalled, and this was immediately denied, and we was moving on. In their own words on this new presentation, there will be a bathroom built in this building, but there is nowhere to hook in to a sewer system because there is no sewer, there is no pump house. Once again, there's no sewer to hook into. This is crazy. If a home developer wanted to build homes on this street, this proposal would be like letting him build all of his homes now, but you could not sell them until there's a pump station or an actual sewer system so they would be able to flush their toilets. But in 3 to 10 years when there is a sewer system, then you can go ahead and sell all them homes you just built. That is the craziest idea, as if we was to let them build this facility now, and in their own words, they're putting a bathroom in there, and rightfully so, somebody has to go to the bathroom, but they have nowhere to hook that system into. You see this map and how ridiculous it is around all of our homes. The picture they showed of the two wells, the one they show in Roy is 30 feet wide. They are proposing a 100 feet wide place. They also propose and show a picture of the West City well, which has never worked, will never work, and they know and have admitted that there is no water that will ever come out of that well. This water board committee, they are good people, but they made a bad decision 4 years ago.
Bruce, how much longer do you think you're going to be?
1 minute, please. Of this water board, Dennis Goodnalia, one of the members that's been on it for years and years and years, lives in West Haven. Why don't we have a well or a site in West Haven? That's where we're going to pump all this water to. The water in my backyard is going to go to all the condos and buildings and everything in the atrocity that's in West Haven. You got to be kidding me. Why, with this gentleman living in that city, don't we own property and have a well in West Haven, since that's who we're going to sell all this to? I'll finish. Also, they're going to ship muddy water through Christensen's property into the existing storm system, which we're not even supposed to wash our car on the top of a storm system drain, but we're going to put their muddy water through it. Also, they're going to hook their sewer into there through the Christensen property. But there's, like everybody's home, people have been trying to build homes on this street for 5 years, and they still can't. But these people are going to build a facility and be able to put bathrooms and everything in it. That facility should never be built until there's a sewer or somewhere to put it. I'd like to ask the planning committee for the third time to please deny this permit. These people need to go down to 5,500, figure it out, and move on. Thank you very much.
And just point of clarity, this bathroom is like roughed in. It's not a finished bathroom, correct?
No, and it can be taken out, but it's there for convenience. Sewer is not needed.
My name is Ray Christensen, 5315 South, 4700 West. I personally like to take my hat off to these guys. They've done a good job. They're predicting our future water needs. My wife and I own 5 acres up in Fruitland, Utah. I don't know if y'all know where that is. But it has grown so much. It's still a podunk town. But it's grown so much. They cannot issue any more water permits. They do not have any more water. They are out. And I'd like to commend these guys and say thank you. And I think we need to look at the future. Thanks.
Tracy Wallace, 4718 West, 5100 South. Well, I had quite a few questions, so a lot of them were answered by people speaking. I was completely unaware that the mayor denied it, now the mayor's setting on the Hooper Water Improvement District.
Just to clarify,
That's kind of...
Corey Green was not the mayor at the time that this came before the planning commission, just so you know that.
Because that's what I just thought I
Yeah,
heard.
but that's not correct. I was on the planning commission, and I was appointed by Mayor Fowers, not by Mayor Green, so he had already left office when this came. I just want to clarify so you understand.
Well, yeah, because I heard that and was like, what? So my question is, well, actually, I have quite a few questions, but probably my biggest concern is that, and a lot of us, own Wilson Irrigation shares, and that's private, and I did not get a letter to go to a meeting about allowing this. But when they were opening that road, I did go to the Department of Natural Resources,
and to the Weber County Recorder's Office that the ditches that they're talking about using are in writing at the Recorder's Office. It says, the Department of Natural Resources is allowing Wilson Irrigation to use the existing ditches. They don't actually own them, and the whole corporation is owned by everybody who owns water shares there. I don't know how they could be giving permission without calling a meeting of everybody that owns it. Who is the one owner that gave the go-ahead on that? I don't know. But then the federal laws state that you cannot put any irrigation water, dirty water, any kind of water. It has to go into, obviously, the system that we do not have. And we still do. Those pipes, they're talking about putting it in, just dump sound in that ditch. It's the runoff ditch for your irrigation, which you legally have to have. Anybody got an answer for that one?
Can I speak to that?
Yes.
So the discharge is to the Wilson irrigation system that discharges into the Hooper Slough. Currently, Telwater runs down the Wilson irrigation and eventually into the roadside ditch along the city road and eventually into the slough, which carries all the drainage throughout the city. We're simply going to utilize that for that pumping period in the off-season of irrigation use. So there will be no land application of the water that we're sending down the ditch. And eventually, it does just make it to the roadside ditch and to the Hooper Slough.
Are you required to get any permits to do that?
We have worked and we will continue to work with Wilson Irrigation to allow that. I mean, that's something that, I guess we've worked with their chairman and their ditch masters to coordinate this. We did some testing. That's what we were monitoring, and we were working through their chairman and their ditch master.
Thanks for that little bit of clarification. But when that first went on, I was furious, and I called the Department of Natural Resources. And I went to the Recorder's Office and pulled that. And an attorney told me I should have just filed a cease and assist, because no, all that has not been ran through the proper way, which would be a vote of the shareholders. And also to be cleared through the Department of Natural Resources for the use of that because that is not irrigation water drainage. That was what I wanted to say.
My name is Keith Glazer. My address is 5747 West, 4350 South. How tall is the water tank going to be?
20 feet from grade.
20 feet by
100.
There's two tanks. One's
Two tanks.
20 feet by 100 and the other is 20 feet by 30, correct?
Correct. That's the smaller tank is a reclamation tank in the event of needed filtration.
Is it going to look like a barn or anything fun like that?
I mean, frankly, the intent was to screen the landscaping. I mean, the district is open to colors, aesthetics, and that is not something the district is against in terms of aesthetics.
So you could make it look like a shop back there?
Not like the one that was there.
Well, just saying, yeah. That's my only comment.
Hi, my name's Rich Dunkley, and I live at 5070 South, 4700 West, which is just down the street. Corey, I sure hope that guy got his furnace fixed, because I can only imagine the noise it made. I have two questions. One is, on the proposal last year, the tank was further south. why did they move it to further north? Is that a in-your-face neighbors? Because it is going to be located right in the backyard of those people that live on 5100. And two, if you would please validate the noise level that those pump will make once it's going. I don't know where Corey got his information or if he was even there, but that drilling process was very, very loud. We could hear it at our house. And my concern is if this goes through and they're pumping constantly, what will be the noise level? And can we validate that before they build the project here? So thank you.
All right, it seems like we've come to the end of the public comments, so I'll go ahead and close that portion out. And just to kind of follow up on that last comment, is that design layout set, or is there able to move tower and?
So just to be clear, the detention pond is located on the lower side of the property. Having said that, I think we've tried to share this. We are open to considerations of what the needed facilities are on the site. I would say that, you know, the well building is somewhat, I don't want to say set in stone, but there are limited movement opportunities that we have with that, given the location of the test well and the city's water, or the district's water right with that. Understanding or considering relocated tank, detention pond, you know, layouts like that, we are not against, some dialogue between modifications of that, but the site is not a set in stone.
Are you able to show us on that plot map where exactly the drill site is? Back to the other one. Sorry.
Yeah, it's in this building right now, that was where the wellhead will be.
Yes.
And that building needs to sit on top of that.
Yeah. So you can only move that building so much.
Correct.
But the tank was moved further north?
The tank, there was a couple options of the tank being where the pond is, and again, if that is the solution, we are open to the solution. I mean, simply put, we can massage this to some extent.
What happened to the hole you guys already drilled right here?
The hole that I just indicated, the well location, is the hole that we drilled. So we drilled a test well, and we have to stay within a limited parameter away from that test well to drill a permanent well.
From where I standing on my back porch, you guys drilled back here towards the back of the property.
It was not that far back.
Down in 2020, it was.
We can take you out, you can see the castles.
And my understanding, maybe I'm wrong on this, that you said it has to be within a certain vicinity of it. I thought it was going to be going down the same hole. It's not.
No, that has been capped. We drilled a smaller diameter test well that has been, abandoned at this point. It was for testing purposes, kind of as Neil indicated. A new well, larger casing.
So it's not so much that it has to be within where that is.
There's a limited requirement for us to relocate it based on our point of diversion.
So, I'm confused. So you had drilled a small test well on
Correct.
this same property,
Correct.
but the actual well won't be where that was. It's going to be somewhere different.
Within feet of it.
Correct. I mean, within, if I know.
Again, I apologize, I don't have that location here, but it's in this area, and we are gonna move it to this area. Frankly, if the building wants to, if that's a solution, moving the building to the southern property line is not an issue with us.
Why don't you, I don't understand any of this stuff, so why don't you just use the same thing you already drilled?
Again, it was not, what was drilled is not a was not drilled for a culinary development. That's not suitable for our purposes.
So you couldn't make it bigger and?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. We cannot reuse the test well.
I guess I was under the impression that because it was
I can comment if you want.
I guess I was under the impression that because it had already been pre-drilled would be a faster drill to bore it out, is I guess what I was thinking.
Yeah, so the test hole was drilled, it's a small diameter, 6.5 inch diameter borehole or so. And then it was filled up with material, and there is still a pipe that's left in a part of the hole. So you have to step over, a certain distance away from where that hole is, and then drill the production well.
So it doesn't have to be within a minimum of that, it has to be further away than a minimum, right?
No. Well, you want it to be close enough so that the information that you got from that test hole is representative, of the production hole.
But not too close because the ground was compromised? Is that
No, it just has to do with you don't want to be too close because these holes, they're not necessarily straight up and down, they divert, and you don't want to, with the production well, you don't want to penetrate the previous borehole that's filled with material.
So what's the diameter of the test well versus this other well?
6.5 inch on the test well. What was the?
So I think we're planning on an 18-inch diameter production hole, and so that means you're going to have to drill like probably a 24-inch diameter borehole to 1,200 feet.
So because I'm ignorant with this, conceivably, does that mean that there's going to be a lot more shaking because you're drilling a bigger hole with a bigger piece of equipment? That would.
Yeah. So the ground material, it's clay, sand, and gravel, and so there's not really shaking. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a larger diameter borehole, and it's going to drill to a total depth of 1,200 feet or so is the plan.
That recording you heard was the test drill. Imagine a bigger one.
Any more questions?
What are the long-term plans for the residents, the home?
There's one thing I can comment on. The sound walls, they can be higher than 16 feet.
How tall
They
is
can
the
go as
drill?
high as like 24 feet is what I've seen on some drill sites.
Where does the noise typically come from? The drill head at the top or down on the
No, I would actually say most of the noise that I think people are complaining about, it's not actually the drilling, it's just like the air compressors and just some of the engines that are running on site. The actual drill, the drilling rig that was on site, it was an electric drill, and it was powered by a generator that's run on a diesel engine. And so actually the drill rig itself is very quiet. It's just you have these air compressors and these generators that are running.
What are the plans to mitigate that sound?
Well, they have mufflers, and then
But did they not before what they do now? Is that what you're saying?
no, they have. I mean, they're all equipped with mufflers. I think.
I guess my question is, what is the plan for mitigation this time versus the test well?
It would be that it's enclosed with sound walls on all sides of the site versus
Does this
just.
sound curtains or
Yeah.
something additional?
They're walls, barricades, curtains. I mean, they have various names, but it would be the whole site would be enclosed with sound barricades, as opposed to the test holes. They just had it on two sides of the site.
And the recording you heard, that wall sat like this, their house was here, and they were within direct sight with that, they were outside with that wall when we stopped. So we went to their house, it was noisy.
And sorry, maybe I'm asking, because I understand. Like, for example, I go camping, I take my generator with me, and I put it behind my trailer that not my trailer I'm sleeping in, the trailer that I towed my side-by-side or whatever, right? So is there something else you guys can do for these generators, air compressors, putting them, not these canvas sound barriers that, can it be inside of a container more like what the generator's going to be in permanently, the backup generator permanently? You know what I mean? That's kind of what we're wondering.
I don't know if you have anything specific in mind, but I would imagine so.
Yeah, I mean, there's various sound mitigation strategies that can be implemented. Other than just the
double up your sound curtains or something? I mean, that might be a dumb question, but.
I guess you could, it would be very expensive, and then you would infringe upon some of the property owners, because I mean, the drilling contractors need, you know, a good sized site to house all the equipment. And so,
We could figure something out.
but yeah, they could figure something out.
What are your long-term plans for the residents that's on that property? Did you,
Be all the same as what it is now, horse property and
Nothing set in stone. Two possibilities are continue as a rental. In my opinion, 1 of 5. Once the well is established, this district has no need of the house. It would be subdivided and maybe sell.
That remains, because it's a 3-acre plot, right? So you're leaving 1 acre for the house, correct?
The property boundary is set that way now.
Amanda, may I speak on the house since I live right next door to it?
Sure.
Yes.
Is that anything?
I never heard that.
Public comment is closed, but with allowed, Bruce.
I'll be brief.
Thank you.
I've lived next to this house for 6 years, and as they all know, we've had the sheriffs there twice. The people have been evicted twice for drugs. The person that's living in there with the 4 additional people right now told me that they answered an ad in the newspaper for 1-room bedroom in the basement of this home. It's a huge home. And for $500 a month, they could live there, and they are living there now. I've done this, we've gone through this for 6 years. The police have been there. I've called these people many times to have them rush over because there's 6 sheriffs out there arresting somebody on drugs. We've had fist fights. I live right next door to this. Kathy and I walk out on our front door, and we live next door to this. 7, 8, 10 vehicles there. On the weekend, we have somebody sleeping next to us every night. They have 5 giant dogs that live inside this house. I crack my sliding glass door, and those dogs in my backyard, basically, because it's my fence line, they're 5 feet away from me. They know when I crack that back door, and they're out there barking like me. This is horrendous, living next door to this thing.
So, and I didn't know if we are allowed to put this to have a condition on it. We told them they had to sell the house after they were done with it. I mean, there's no guarantee if they don't sell it to somebody else that then rents it out, and you're in the exact same position. You see what I'm saying? So, we're trying to come up with conditions, which is what we can do. Add conditions to make it so it doesn't impact you guys too much, right? That's kind of the goal. So, I think the sound mitigation thing is probably the biggest complaint. And
Well, the infrastructure, the lack thereof. No sewer, no real drainage.
sewer isn't needed, and it sounds like they've got the drain part resolved.
It sounds like they're trying to make something out of nothing. But the conflict of interest there, I'm wondering why this person is even here.
Are you like doing honey buckets or something to use the bathroom? Because I know, you know, when you have,
They won't have a bathroom on site.
they will not.
They will not. They just told us that if they don't want to have that be an issue, they'll just remove the bathroom from the plans.
I think there's legal implications you have to have when you for construction companies.
Well, yeah, I mean, when it's under construction, they would have, you know, whatever's required by law for that, so.
How can you build a facility like that and not have a restroom that's operable? No one can build a home in that situation and be allowed to by the city.
It's not a home, it's not a residence.
Just to clarify, the district has well 1, there's no restroom inside well 1. That is operated as a functional well site for the time that Cole's indicated. So that is certainly doable and feasible.
So I know public comments are out, but as far as I understand, Hooper City does not allow flag lots. So as far as subdividing that in and being able to sell that house, that wouldn't be possible.
They can have was it an easement or an access easement. It's very common for utility companies to have access easements on properties.
The water company gonna give up their share of water?
We'll use our own house.
2 shares,
2 acres.
$80,000 each. What's that at?
That goes for comment.
I have another comment, if you'll let me. Is there a possibility to build a temporary building over top of the whole thing while it's being constructed? Like a big
How much noise do you think it'll cause to make that?
How much tent? Well, no, like a tent, like a tent building that they use downtown Salt Lake or whatever. A building like that, so the whole thing is enclosed temporarily while it's being constructed. It's just a thought, it's just an idea. They do them downtown Salt Lake. Just saying. Because since sounds like noise is 90% of the issue here. Because once it's built,
You got the lights coming in my bedroom.
the lights are going to be inside. The lights are going to be inside.
I have in my previous life, I remodeled homes, built homes.
Sorry, Corey, can you talk in the mic a little more? Sorry.
Okay, so in my previous life, I built homes, remodeled homes. We had an unofficial mantra, we can build whatever you can pay for. Sure, we can do anything as the funds are available. Some's going to be limited to do some outlandish things.
Let me ask you a question. If this doesn't get approved, can you make 5,500 work?
Not in the timeline that we have.
I think one thing that is worth at least pointing out is that, there's been comments about like, this water is going to go to West Haven, which maybe it will, I don't know. But a question for you guys, you can answer for me. How many well sites do we have in Hooper now, and where does Hooper get its water?
So I did a little bit of research today, knowing that was going to be a question. Right now we have 0 wells in Hooper. We have 2 right now that produce all the water for 20,000 residents in our district. I would say Hooper's portion that we serve is approximately 8,000. So 40% of our customers are in Hooper City. However, Hooper City residents use about 60% of our water because they don't have irrigation or pressurized irrigation everywhere in the city. So people that use outside water use a lot more water than people who use inside their homes. 1 acre of land that takes irrigation, pressurized irrigation, uses the same as 5 houses in a year. So Hooper has a lot of 1 acre lots, a lot of low density. It takes a lot of water in the summer. So our usage goes up almost 4 times in the summer just due to outside irrigation.
People watering
their lawns with clean water. So
man, if those secondary rates would just come down.
We would prefer to have secondary water everywhere, for the record.
These are not easy decisions. It's not easy to decide things like this. I think we have to make our decisions based on facts and not emotion, and that's hard, especially when you live in the community where you're serving. I agree with Travis in the regard that I believe the water company did try very hard to be more prepared this time when they came in and to try to address the concerns that the residents brought up. I'm trying to listen to hear if the biggest concerns are the development of the well or the long-term, when it comes to it's going to obstruct my view and those kinds of things, I'm sympathetic to that, but those are not reasons that we can deny something. We have big, huge pole barns that come in
The
for
reality is,
communities
if
all
it
the
was
time.
the person that let's say the people that owned that before, you guys told us they had a structure you guys tore down that was comparable to the size of the building. Yeah, and if someone came to us and they wanted to build something similar size to these 2 structures or 3 structures, we would approve those. So, yeah, those long-term effects aren't really the.
What about the lights?
The lights once it's built?
Less than a house.
It's in my backyard.
Right, but once it's built, there's not gonna be, it'll just be like, it'll be shot lights.
It's hard, my parents have a big tall light on their property, just like a street lamp kind of light, and I don't know if it's comparable to that.
Less than that.
We have to be able to weigh the need for something like this. We all need water. My frustration, I'll say it again, I do think that this is being pushed by growth, and I think that there are a lot of, I use West Haven as an example because they have a lot of homes that are going in and a lot of high density housing, and I would like to encourage you to continue to look in that area and see if you can find places over there that would work. I don't think it's right that we don't have a well located in Hooper. We're using the water too. I understand that. The area that's over on 5500, when I drive by there, you've got 8 acres. It's not right up against a house, and I think this is a big impact on these people. I think that I wouldn't want to be around that noise when it's going in. I wouldn't want to be around it one day, let alone however long it's going to take. But if it's not something that's going to be constant, it's just going to be while you're putting in. That's what I was trying to understand. Is it 8 days? Is it 2 months? How long is that sound going to be going on realistically?
I don't know if I ever got an answer to that.
I don't think we did.
Yeah, I heard 8 days and then 8 days from you and then like the elongated time period. So
So
So I attempted to answer this earlier, but, so the drill crews would move in, and they would be under 24-hour operations for probably 3 to 4 weeks, I would say. The initial drilling is, actually, I would say, so the initial drilling would be about a week to 10 days, and then the well construction would probably be about 5 days. And then the well development would be about a week of 24-hour operations. So that's like, about 3 weeks or so.
How much noise will they be making during the construction? And will that be 24 hours a day?
Yeah, the construction would be 24 hours a day, and it would just be mostly like a tractor moving drill pipe. They would have the rig would be operational, and then it needs power, so they would have the generator running so that they can hoist up the casing. But it wouldn't be, we wouldn't have the air compressors running, which they're actually pretty loud. They're probably the loudest thing that occurs, and that actually just goes on during the drilling portion.
I'm gonna need construction for 24 hours a day, especially as long as this is gonna take. I've got kids that have to sleep at night. Everybody else here has kids too. This is not right. I'm 2 doors over from where this is going to be built.
3 years for construction, 3 years.
One kid going to high school next year, and another one going to junior high.
So that casing, is that what the pounding is? Is pounding that casing into the?
No, there's no pounding. I can't comment on what the pounding and the banging is. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, they're doing, they're using tools, and yeah, I'm sure there's some banging sometimes, but the equipment and the drilling process itself, there's no sort of banging or pounding of the casing into the ground or anything like that.
That recording that we heard, that we're hearing again, is that the drill? Is that the pump?
I can't comment. I don't know what that is. I mean, I've seen instances where the vibrations coming from the site, it's vibrating off of a building or something that's made of metal that sort of reverberates that. I don't know. So.
It's loud. They don't know that, at least Quinn tell me to.
first, and then it would come down last.
I hate to come back up again, but these people, they seem to be able to, so,
Well, we're
I own
asking
a-
them questions.
I own a rental home, as you all know, right next to there. And at 1:30 in the morning, when Kathy and I are laying there asleep, he called me with during all this banging, and he called me at 1:30 in the morning and he says, I'm gonna send you a couple pictures. I was laying in my bed and he says, the ceiling just cracked and there's dust, some dust that fell down on my bed. You need to come look at what just happened at 1:30 in the morning. I looked at it, I went over to the place and talked to the people at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they talked to their manager and everything, and came back and told me they have a 24/7 permit, and they can legally do that for 24 hours a day for as long as they want. I called the sheriff. He went over and talked to them after talking to me, and he came back and he says they have a 24/7 permit, and they are legal to do this as long as they want to do it.
This is where I run into the struggle, because if this is accurate, those types of things are happening on the residences. I don't think that that's right either, and it's, I don't know. Are there studies that you guys have done or that are out there that show the impact, some of these adverse effects that can happen when you're putting one of these in? I mean, or you that, sorry, I can't remember your name.
Neil. It's Neil.
Neil, have you done these in other areas, I assume, that,
Yeah, I've drilled like over 50 public water system wells throughout Utah.
and are these complaints that you get about, I mean, I don't know if they're right in a residential area like this, but
Yeah, there's many wells that are drilled in residential areas, yes. And generally, it's just when it's in a residential area, I mean, the sound curtains is a must-have. I mean, you have to have sound barricades on all sides of the site.
does the sound barricade, does that address the vibration though? I mean, of the ground that's causing the, you know, if what Bruce is saying is happening, that their ceiling has plaster falling off of it, and
I've spent a lot of times on well sites, and I just can't say that I've felt like vibrations and my truck shaking or anything like that. I've never experienced anything like that at a well site.
I know in your response that you guys sent in to us, something was mentioned about, you didn't think it was the actual drilling that was, the residents were drilling, it was the resurfacing of a road or something back there?
So two things happened when we were building, the ground was wet, as we did in the spring or winter, and we had to build an access road back and build a pad to put the large equipment on so that it didn't make such a mess.
Sorry, I'm just checking the recorder.
So we had to build that pad to have all the equipment on so it didn't sink and make a mess. When they did that, they put in rock and road base and then road millings, and they rolled that with a roller. So we brought in multiple dump trucks, and brought in all that material, and then brought in a roller that they did on a Saturday afternoon for a couple of hours. At the same time as all of this was going on, we don't know what, we think it was going to the bird refuge, we really don't know, but there was a lot of trucks going down 5100 South going west, hauling dirt, coming from somewhere east and going west. We don't know where it was coming or where it was going, but they went through the whole process, and these trucks were going up and down the road a lot. I know that people thought that it was our equipment, our trucks, but this was happening after we were done building our road, and that's the only time we brought in the dump trucks and the roller. And I know the roller did cause vibration, because rollers, that's what they do to compact the road. But that was just they did it on we weren't even there. It was a Saturday afternoon that the contractor came and did that early.
So,
That's what we were talking about.
if this is happening in the middle of the night, I'm assuming it's gotta be the drill that's going in the middle of the night.
I really don't.
There's nothing else being done during that time as far as the construction of the wells,
As far
right?
as we
The
know,
drill.
And I find it, personally, I find it hard that we get 600, 700, 800 feet in the ground that we're causing vibrations on the surface when you have multiple sand layers. You know how sand takes compaction. Clay that is a hard layer in between, and multiple layers of that. Maybe in the beginning, sure, that might have happened. We have had no one come to us. We've had no pictures. We've had no one that I'm aware of come to I'll share all the police reports with you.
So they did
We'll just leave
contact
it
you.
at that. I don't know about this one about vibrations. That one I don't know about that. I wasn't manager at the time, so that may just went to him. But all the police reports, we can share that with you if you'd like.
What about damage to the road going in and out?
So, I mean, they cite the code here. They can, the conditional use permit shall be approved if reasonable conditions are proposed or can be imposed to mitigate reasonably anticipated detrimental effects. So, that's the question.
And it is, I mean, it's important, I think, to note that these types of facilities, according to our code right now, are allowed in residential areas. One of the things that's on our meeting for tonight, which we will not get to, we'll table it, is to look at our allowed uses and the different things that are allowed in residential, commercial, agricultural, or industrial, areas, and see if that is an appropriate place for something like whatever is on there. And I know that that probably does no good to say that to you who are facing something like this right now, but it is something that we plan to look at. You know, we've had a few things that have come to the Planning Commission over the last several months that we did not anticipate, and sometimes you don't know until you look at the ordinance and because you're faced with having to address it. And so we are going to try to be proactive and look at some of those things that were put into place long before we were here and make some recommendations for the City Council. But as it stands, this type of a facility, it is an allowed use in a residential area. As far as mitigating factors, we really do try to listen to your concerns. I hope that you don't ever leave these meetings feeling like we don't care, but we are bound by facts. And I mean, my thoughts, I don't know if it is approved, if we require double the sound barriers on all sides so that it has to be contained and we aren't having that effect, like what has been previously done. I don't know. I mean,
What's that?
I wish I knew what decibel, like if we could put a condition on it, so decibel levels this far away can't exceed this number. Like that's kind of the conditions that we could impose on it. Because to me, it sounds like, I mean, and I agree, I wouldn't want to listen to that for 3 months. I mean, I feel like if this was, you know, they could shut down at night, that'd be big all
a lot easier.
So,
The one that you did the test for on 5500, that I have curtains on all sides? No.
It was open on the east side.
East side. And the home, the resident that said they didn't hear anything going on lived on the west side.
And they're closer than that resident, and multiple residents are closer than any of the residents to this site. And we have we have one person come from 5900 South and said he could see the lights, because he was on the north side as well.
My biggest concern is the impact the installation is going to have on the residents. I think once it's there, I mean, if you look at how many people, you say 1 car a day, that's less than you're going to get with the residents. You could have somebody build barns and shops that are the same size. We get things like that come in all the time. I don't think that that's the biggest concern. What I'm hearing from people is that this was really, it was a nuisance to them while it was being built. So I feel like we need to try and mitigate that as much as possible. And I also think you guys need to work with the residents on the placement of that tank on the property so that it's the least, it leaves the least amount of footprint or problem to those people that live by there. It was expressed that you guys had moved it further north. One of the residents, I don't know if it was Kathy, said it's now right next to her backyard, so I don't know if it's possible to change that. But I mean, it's hard because I recognize the need that we need water, and I still stand by, like I said, please look at West Haven and see if there's some areas over there so that, because I know you said we're using 60% of the water, and I'm not saying that's not accurate, but I'm going to have to run some numbers too and see, 'cause there's a lot going on over there. When you're talking about these projections and you're looking at our future land use maps, I know what our future land use map has on it currently because we just put it into place with the general plan. And West Haven, I think, is very different from what we've got over here, and so that would be my suggestion still.
Well, I'll entertain a motion on it.
I made every motion tonight, guys.
And I mean, not that we can't go without tabling everything today, but there's nothing that says we can't table this to come up with, give us a month to come up with conditions that we think can be used. Puts a bit more load for next month.
It does. I don't know if these people want to go through another 4-hour meeting.
I'd like to see it tabled and review Sinclair and review what should be allowed futuristically. I go through
You
again.
guys have any suggestions of what could be done to mitigate the noise and the light pollution and things like that during construction?
I can comment.
Aside from just the curtains or whatever.
One thing that might help you guys make a decision is that, and this is fairly common, you could do a sound modeling exercise. There are companies out there that they can model and they can prepare a little report based on what decibel levels would be expected with the drill site, and they can look at 16-foot tall sound barriers, 20-foot tall sound barriers, and then see what sort of expected decibel levels would be experienced by the neighbors' properties.
That's a good idea. So, I mean, we feasibly table this and ask for one of those studies to be done so that
Who can we ask for it from?
well, the
We ask, yeah.
applicant would have to be the one to provide that. We're just trying to figure out a way, we're not going to please everybody, but to come to some sort of compromise, right? So that
Could you make it a condition?
I know that there are millions of dollars that you're saying if you try to find another location, and we have to take into consideration that the cost that's going to be passed on to the people paying and using the water, which is also what we have to think about when we make these decisions, so. The problem is with making it a condition is how do we know what decibel level
Yeah, they
is
come back and they say,
acceptable?
yeah, 120 decibel.
We don't know what that.
Yeah, they can expect.
way too loud.
Oh, I know, that's what I'm saying.
Ma'am, they can start tomorrow morning on 5500 South instead of fighting this for 6 more years. They can
Do
start
you have
tomorrow
a company that you have used before for these types of things?
Yes, they're located in Denver, Colorado, but they do these types of studies all across the western U.S.
Is that something you could have to us by the
I
July
would
meeting?
have to check with their workload availability, but I would think in a month time period, that sounds like a reasonable request.
I would table it for a month when you guys do this other meeting you need to get to as well. The other meeting table.
Okay, I think that's a good solution to come up with, see what kind of sound mitigation we can do.
All right, I'll make a motion to table it to our July meeting, pending a sound mitigation, what?
Yeah, we'll call it a sound modeling plan and a sound mitigation plan from you guys to bring to us, and we'll go with that.
And can we add to that, like sound and vibration? I would like to see if that addresses both of those things.
And light.
Sure. We'll look at those things.
Okay.
Make a motion to do what you guys said.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, city meeting is now 10:30. We have 2 more things on the agenda.
I'd like to motion that we table those, hopefully to our next meeting. Well, let's table it till our next meeting and see if we address it when we can.
I'll second
All those in favor?
Aye.
The last part is citizen comment for anything not on the agenda. I'll open that up real quick. Nothing, that's closed.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you guys for your time. Tough decisions. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you. Hey. Have a good one.